To begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. Our friend Coop with us, aka Coop A. Fiasco. What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my incredibly smart, very handsome, and always well-rested co-host, John Luke Garofalo and Andrew Cooper. What's up, boys?
There it is.
There it is.
JL said it all.
Yeah, with the I like how the finger guns turned into finger shitty typing.
He was the Twitter fingers, like Jake likes to say. He's just
the Harry Potter fang maneuver there.
Got him, dude.
Yeah.
Starting to fight with the chat with the Twitter
When the
fingers.
spider dies.
I really thought you were typing. I could have handled you or could have sworn you just never did type to learn in elementary school, and you're a guy who pecks at the keyboard over and over and over again.
No, man, I ran the streets on those little programs where you did like the typing challenges. You know what I'm talking about? You ever do that in like library?
Oh, yeah.
Go to the media center.
If the program was purple, whatever it was that I was using, it was definitely purple to learn how to type.
Damn, those games still around? I kind of want to play one right now.
They went kind of hard, didn't they?
They did. They did.
Sometimes
I'm
just sitting there typing, and I'll be sitting there typing, looking on the computer. I'm like, man, pretty cool that I think a word and my brain just moves my fingers around on this random assortment of keys to create it. Do you ever get two in your head about little things that you do, and you're sitting there like, man, typing's kind of crazy when you think about it, like how much coordination is going on that you don't even think about.
Yeah, it is insane.
I think about that when I maneuver the Xbox controller around, and then I give it to my wife, and she's just like holding the joystick with one finger. And I'm like, that's not how you do it. She's like, looks at the screen, then looks down at to find the A button, and I'm like,
that's dude, this whole topic is a big thing I studied in school. It is super fascinating, just how people use controls and stuff like that. It's the whole psychology behind it.
Yeah. I recently switched my controller grip because I saw it online, and I was like, no, that's dumb. That's dumb. And then I was playing, and I was like, that might actually be helpful. And it's called the claw, at least on the retro commercials. So now I move that top finger down instead of on the trigger, and I push the buttons from the top with this finger so I can maneuver both joysticks and have access to the buttons and the triggers all at the same time. It's been a game changer, man.
My buddy
My buddy
who was nasty at N64 used to do that back then, dude.
Back then,
man, 007, he was clawing it up, and I'm like, dude, what are you, an idiot? And they would just murder us with odd job.
Genius.
And he'd be like, can't play this odd job. That's
it looks so stupid. It looks so stupid when you're playing. You just got this finger dangling over, but man, it works. We got Tommy in the chat with the oi, oi, oi. It's time for the boys.
Hey,
oh, Tommy. It's time for the boys.
Tyler Egby.
Pretty good. And Tommy in here with the good segue. We had some pretty crazy stuff go down since yesterday going into today.
Yeah, CMC later, he says. Christian McCaffrey traded to the 49ers, bro. And honestly, when I was thinking about landing spots, the 49ers didn't really jump out, but what an amazing spot. Trent Williams is back, and Trent Williams might be the best football player in the entire league. You know what I mean? Obviously quarterback's important, but Trent Williams last year did about as good of a job as you can do at your job. He was unbelievable, and he is unbelievable, and he's back. That team is the perfect spot for this player. Sorry, Elijah Mitchell. Sorry, Jeff Wilson. It's
dude vanished. That Elijah Mitchell value just vanished, so quick.
That's why I always tell people same goes for guys like Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce is awesome on this ghost chip team where he's the only guy. But look what happened to Michael Carter. Michael Carter was a 4th round pick. Trey Sermon was a 4th round pick. That it can happen like that with some of these superstars. If Breece Hall is there, you grab, who cares about Michael Carter? So with Dameon Pierce, you got to keep it in the back of your mind. If there's an amazing player there and Rex Burkhead's gone and they want a pass catching back, it can happen just like that, So
I don't know.
It comes at you fast.
I don't know why. but like I was aware of this news. I was sitting there thinking about it, about the impact like for Christian McCaffrey, for the 49ers on a large scale. I didn't even consider what this meant for all of my Elijah Mitchell shares. They're dead. They're gone. I drafted so much Elijah Mitchell. I was so in on Elijah Mitchell, and I was so excited to get him back. And I'm just now realizing they're nothing. Poof, gone.
What
up
are
in the
the?
air.
I know we're talking like extremes here, but like, what is there even a shot that Elijah Mitchell could have fantasy value this year? Still,
Christian McCaffrey
with
gets
Christian
injured.
McCaffrey there,
He gets hurt.
Imagine,
barring injury, because that doesn't help anybody.
I mean,
he just beats everybody out. Elijah Mitchell, like he just can't be beaten. Like he just beat Trey Sermon out. I guess he didn't really beat Raheem Mostert out. Raheem Mostert got hurt.
But there's times he looked good. This time he looked
he
explosive
looks
in this
gr- he
offense. I
looks
could
great,
see
yeah.
Shanahan working him in. He's talented enough that he could turn that into something. I just don't know how much
imagine
he's going to work him in.
Imagine Kyle Shanahan just does what Kyle Shanahan does, and like he just uses Elijah Mitchell for an entire game, and he's like, "Hey, sorry, he had the hot hand." Like I'm not changing the way I roll. I'm not changing the way I roll because we traded away an entire draft's worth of picks. You know, like I think it was a second, third, and fourth in 2023, and a fifth in 2024. That's the kind of trade you do when you're just like, I'm not trading a first round pick for this guy. Here, have every other pick. Like
every other pick.
What they traded is I don't know. Would you rather have one first round pick, or would you rather have a second, third, fourth, and fifth?
I don't know the right answer.
That's tough. I think it would depend on my team. It would depend a bit on my team and what I needed, because I think they're of equal value, but what you're getting out of it is different, right?
I think it's the 2, 3, 4, 5, especially for a team like the Panthers, where like they've got some young pieces on the defense, but this is a blow it up and rebuild kind of process, right? Like they've got so many holes they need to fill. I think that makes sense for them right now.
Let me see here.
Which is they also said though that they wouldn't be entertaining offers that weren't multiple firsts, right? Like that was what came out of their camp.
Boys, I figured out the answer. The 49ers don't have a first round pick next year.
That would make sense. They couldn't give a first round pick.
They would have given it away if they had it. I think it looks like they traded it to the Dolphins at some point. So there you go. Mystery solved. They probably would have traded that. I also saw, I'm not sure if you guys heard that the Rams were in the mix trying to get McCaffrey as well, which that would have been a spicy meatball. I'm not sure, which spot do you think would have been a better landing spot for CMC?
I think the 49ers.
Yeah,
it's a much better offensive line, right? Like it's a more competent offense, and they like to feature their running backs. Like this seems to make sense for him. Rams, like, don't get me wrong, he's Christian McCaffrey. He still would have been great on the Rams. He's great wherever he touches the ball, but I think this 49ers landing spot is pretty hot for him. Like it's going to be pretty hot. If you're a Christian McCaffrey manager, are you excited about this? Like, is this an upgrade for you in your mind? I know switching teams mid-season can add some challenges, but Jay, you mentioned it yesterday. It is easier for a running back than for a wide receiver to switch teams. Like that is generally considered easier. But are you guys viewing this as a fantasy upgrade for Christian McCaffrey?
I don't know if it's an upgrade. I see it as probably a lateral. I think we see some trade-offs here. Like you said, there's going to be some growing pains for him this season, but they're trading for him this season. So it is reasonable to, extrapolate that they're going to use him this season. They're going to find ways to get him involved.
Trent Williams.
Sorry,
Tommy asked, when's their first pick now? I just pulled that up. The 49ers now have their first pick in the draft will be in the 5th round, and then they have 2 7th-round picks. That's all they have for picks. So,
see Craig in the chat. What up, Craig? Said, hope you're happy now. You made fun of Thursday so much it finally went and blew itself up.
I am happy. Thank God it went and did that. That was so much fun.
I could have used the snoozer yesterday though, so that it wasn't up so late. But it's all right. It shows this week. That's fine. Good football is good football.
Good football is good football. Guys, we saw Christian McCaffrey traded. We've seen Robbie Anderson traded, and there's another player, one that has disappeared a little bit recently, that's requesting a trade as well. Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore has requested a trade, and there was kind of like the writing on the wall. Maybe we should have seen this coming. He was dismissed from practice or given the day off from practice for what was being called a personal day. The team was saying that maybe it was family related, but sources made it very clear that it was directly related to him being frustrated with his lack of involvement in the offense. And the coaches thought it would be best for him to leave, for him to cool down, them to cool down. And now he wants out. He wants out of that team, but it doesn't look like they have any intention of trading him. And if you guys remember, Denzel Mims, another Jets wide receiver, young wide receiver, requested a trade due to his lack of involvement, which has been a healthy scratch through the first 6 weeks of the season. But Elijah Moore wants out of town. Can't handle the heat.
Yeah, it seems a bit premature. I understand his perspective and wanting to get involved in this offense more. Obviously we don't know all the underlying dynamics and politics going on, so we're working from a limited position of information here. But it is interesting. You know, he's a young player, so it is surprising. I feel like you don't see that sort of impatience as early in most players. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like the Denzel Mims one made a lot of sense because like he kind of looked good in preseason, and then they told him like, look, like it's Corey Davis, it's Elijah Moore, it's Garrett Wilson, it's Braxton Berrios, so you're not even going to be playing in these games. So that makes sense. Going into last week, Elijah Moore was like top 5 in the league in routes run. Like they were getting him out there. He was running around, kind of an all exercise team player. But so this sounds like more of a Keyshawn Johnson throw me the damn ball situation. I think this week we're going to see one of two things. We're going to see classic Scott Fish. Was it Squeaky Mouse gets the cheese game?
Gets the cheese.
Or maybe they'll have to move him if he's that upset. It would be a shame because seems like a really good player, but I don't know.
Craig asking, what landing spot do you like for Moore? What landing spot do you like more for Elijah? Sorry, Craig, I ruined your delivery there.
Too early, Craig. If you waited another
early
3 minutes till quarter after, we probably would have got that one.
3 hours, then we would have picked that one up.
Hours. If you wait another, if you wait another 8 hours, drop that joke on Nando DeFino and Corey Parson at 3 o'clock. They probably would have got that one.
Man, that is funny thinking about what would be a good spot for him. Yeah, I'm sitting here running through teams in my head thinking like what would be a good landing spot for him.
The list of teams that would be better with Elijah Moore on it would be all of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, 100%. He's a great wide receiver. Yeah, the Bears would probably be nice to add Elijah Moore, but I don't know if for fantasy that's exciting for Elijah Moore. But
or for
from
Elijah
a football
Moore,
perspective,
Elijah Moore.
That would be nice. The Falcons, do you think he could be a second receiver there with the Falcons for Marcus Mariota?
Falcons are throwing just as little as the Bears, though. Like the Bears are at 19 attempts per game, which is dead last, and the Falcons are at 22. So here are the top teams. Let's roll through actually, there's an answer right there. Indianapolis Colts are second in the league in pass attempts per game, and they really don't have a clear de facto number 2 wide receiver. It would bring great pain on the Alec Pierce hype and the remaining Paris Campbell hype, but I mean, he would probably be the second pass catcher on that team immediately.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I don't know that any move helps Elijah Moore's fantasy value this year. So like redraft formats, anything like that, I can't see it being a positive for him. Long term, I feel like that becomes an interesting question. Because then it's like, okay, what offense do we want to see him in season after season? But this season, I can't imagine him going anywhere that's going to be better than the Jets, and he's going to get worked in that quickly.
Keith's bringing up a good point, saying they're not trading him, and that's what the Jets have said. Like, I know he wants to trade, but we're not trading him. So it seems like the most likely outcome is we just have a disgruntled Elijah Moore that either does or doesn't resolve this with his team. Like either he resolves it and we get a squeaky mouse gets the cheese game. They're going to feature him in that offense, or he's going to be disgruntled and it'll be more of this for the rest of the season.
Speaking of disgruntled, look at Sassy Keith in the chat says, how about you get open? Dang, dude. Shots fired at Elijah.
How confident are you that it's a Elijah Moore not getting open situation, Keith?
Oh, dude.
It's Elijah Moore's fault?
When LaFleur was asked about if Elijah Moore was getting open, he did say a lot of factors go into that, citing competitive reasons that he didn't want to provide details. Total hedge, total non-answer, which is a total answer, isn't it? Like if he's not saying, yeah, dude's getting open, then either he's like admitting Elijah Moore's not getting open, or I don't know. Coaches are weird. I don't know LaFleur's tendencies enough behind the mic to read into it. If it was Belichick, then and you would know Elijah Moore was in trouble.
Belichick wouldn't even answer. He would just stare at you until you melted into a puddle. He'd be like,
Start reciting Cloud Atlas.
All right.
I just love Keith in the chat. Keith's on one right now. He goes, Garrett Wilson gets open. Corey Davis gets open. Why can't Elijah Moore get open?
Oh.
You should go tell him how to get open, Keith.
Yeah, Keith. Why don't you run around and show us how he gets open?
Show him how it's done.
We got video of Keith running routes, actually. So I say that. I've seen Keith get open. He can do it. Keith gets open. How come you can't?
Zero coverage, yeah. Keith gets open for sure.
He absolutely.
Jets catch rates versus man-to-man coverage this year. 2 targets for Braxton Berrios. Caught all 2. 100% for Braxton Berrios. Doesn't miss. Garrett Wilson, 57.9%. Jeff Smith, 50%. Corey Davis, 40%. Pretty bad, but not as bad as Elijah Moore. Only 2 catches on 7 targets versus man-to-man. That's 28.6%. If I had to rank that among wide receivers, I would need to go to the 3rd tab and sort by top 200 wide receivers to find the guy who is 28.6%, ranked 128th in the league. Keith was correct on that. Impressive, Keith. Impressive.
Wow.
Nice job.
Genius.
I see Tommy with the question saying, is the fire sale over in Carolina, or does Simon need to get a new DJ Moore jersey?
I saw him down there saying Elijah and DJ hoping for a reunion, or not reunion, but that they get together, that Elijah Moore gets traded to the Panthers. That'd be ugly.
Of the players that actually even have 1 catch versus man-to-man, there's a bunch that have none. But of the players that have 1 catch versus man-to-man, he is the 4th worst catch rate. The other ones are hot. Michael Gallup, who just came back, Marvin Jones Jr., who just came back. So those guys, or who got hurt. So those guys have 1 catch on 4 targets. Pretty reasonable. And then after that, it's Scotty Miller and AJ Green. So
it's a great list. Great list to be a part of
for Elijah Moore. So
I mean, I feel like usually when we give those lists, it's the other way, where it's like 5 great players and 1 horrible one, and you're like, man, what great company to be in.
Yeah.
Or it was like at the Hall of Fame in Canton, there was a back wall where they had all these jerseys, and it was like Tom Brady, Johnny Unitas, Nick Foles, Eli Manning. Like they had like some of these like all-time greats in a jersey case, and then just tucked in between them was a Nick Foles jersey. Like he has cemented himself. Like he's
tucked in between them was Nick Foles.
Nick Foles tucked in between.
Yeah.
It's a big tuck.
It's
for
a
Mr.
big
Nick
tuck.
over there. It's a big tuck.
Big tuck. You guys watched that the heated exchange between Kyler and Kingsbury last night? Kingsbury?
Yeah, how did you not? It was I watched it, and then I immediately went to Google to find my lip readers, and then as I was doing that, they played it again on TV, and I was like, oh,
down.
I don't need lip readers. That was very apparent what he said.
Yeah, if you didn't catch that, Kyler Murray was caught on camera. I think it was like 2nd quarter or something like that, just going off on Cliff Kingsbury, his head coach, saying many bad words, many no words that you're not supposed to say. And then, yeah, that was pretty crazy. People, I know that the internet went wild with that.
Yeah, you know, it's not a good look, but then also, like, there's a competitive drive. This is a must-win game for the Cardinals, really, as they were talking about. Like, this was a very important game for those Arizona Cardinals. Emotions are high. They haven't been playing well. Like, I imagine this stuff happens now. Like, not that heated and not that publicly. We don't see very often between a quarterback and his coach, but they got it back together, right? Like they still put together a nice game. So I'm not reading too much into it. I think that solves most problems. Like between a coach and a quarterback, winning games solves a lot of these problems. They start winning, man, all of a sudden Cliff and Kyler, they're going to get along a lot better than you've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they downplayed it after the game. Josh Weinfuss from ESPN was saying, we're reporting that Murray said the clock was running down and we couldn't have got off the play that we were trying to run. He's like, so it was, I guess, my fault, but I'll take it. So it seems like probably part of the heat of the game. You know, these are competitors; they want to win. It's the same way that we scream at Keith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that I love when this does happen because it's just more ammo for that guy that does like the bad lip reading, where he just like
I
I don't know
love
if you ever
this.
seen those. Yeah. So I think that one's going to fit in there nicely with for that guy's montage.
It came up yesterday. That's maybe the second most clear expletive written yell I've seen during a sports game. And the other one came up yesterday. Our friend Brian Drake was on office hours with us, and he's a big Syracuse guy. Clemson plays Syracuse this weekend, and it brought back up one of my favorite sports memories ever. Clemson was playing Syracuse up in the Carrier Dome, and Clemson was up big going into halftime, right? But it wasn't quite half yet. There's like 5 seconds left. Clemson's on like the 3-yard line. And instead of just like going into halftime up 40, like they were up like very big, Dabo decides to go for it on 4th down, and Syracuse comes up with the stop on the goal line. It's halftime, and then they pan to Scott Schaefer, coach of the Syracuse team, and he runs out onto the field, and you can just see him like there's no doubt in your mind the words he says are "F you, Dabo, you mother effer," and just lets it rip on national television, and they cut away from it so fast. But like, I'm a Clemson fan, but man, Dabo deserved that. Like going for it on 4th and 3 on the goal line, up 40 on the road, like disrespectful. And that was awesome that Scott Schaefer ran out there with that.
It's college football though, man. Like, you know, if you can go up 40 in a game, you can give that 40 back. That's the way I look at it. And that's the way Belichick's been doing that for a long time, because, you know, we saw them come back 28-3. And before that, we've seen them come, like, he piles it on. And he said that when Tennessee got upset one year, they beat them like 56-7. He's like, I've been in this league too long just to let teams back into games, you know?
And it like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, while I was going to move on to another guy yelling at his team, but if you had more to add on Dabo there.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, in that talk with Brian Drake yesterday, he said, I remember that game because I saw the line open, Clemson favored by 20. And I thought, what the hell? Clemson's only favored by 20. And it reminded me just how different the college betting game is. Like he saw a team favored by 20 and thought, oh, easy cover. Know what I mean? Like that's nuts. That's so crazy.
That's how college goes, man. No, but so I was going to bring up, did you guys see Travis and Jason Kelsey talking about Tom Brady yelling at his line? They have their
No, I did not see. I didn't see them talking about it.
They have their own podcast, and like, you know, Jason Kelsey's so funny, dude. He's like, you know, I saw Tom Brady yelling at the line. He's like, any other quarterback. He's like, Tom Brady, he's a legend. Like, he's got all those rings. I'm not going to say anything to him. He's like, if Tom Brady yelled at me, I'd stand there and take it. He goes, any other quarterback comes to me and yells at me about how, you know, you're not even allowed to hit this guy, and he's going to come to me and tell me how to wrestle a dude every single play. I'm picking that dude up and putting him in a trash can. Right. So Travis Kelce, if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it because it's even funny when he says it. But, you know, it brings me to, you know, what Tom Brady recently said, which is they asked him, they were like, you know, people kind of hinted, you know, that he might be giving up on the team or he might be willing to retire. And he went as far as to say that he doesn't even see retirement in the future. So with this quote, like, do you guys think he's talking about like not retiring during the season this year, or that he might not be retiring from football at all now that, you know, things are kind of on the rocks?
I am fearful that we are seeing the beginning of a really sad ending to Tom Brady's career, because like I say that hopeful that maybe it's not the case, but this dude seems like maybe like he doesn't know what's next after football. Know what I mean? Like how does he move on from this thing that he has truly dedicated like every second of his life to over the past 20 plus years? Like, man, it feels like a really sad situation. Like he just doesn't know what to do next. He doesn't want to do anything else. Hopefully when the writing's on the wall, he doesn't stick around too much longer, like once he starts declining, but he might just stick around and keep trying to play, because I don't know, is 50% Tom Brady still a starting quarterback in the NFL? You know what I mean? Like they talk about that with LeBron. Like LeBron at 50% is still a great player in the NBA, right? Like if he wants to keep playing for another 5-6 years, he probably can, even if he's declining. Does the same apply to Tom Brady? Like, do we see him play as an average quarterback when he starts declining?
I feel like basketball is a little different because certain players could kind of play forever in the NBA. Like Ray Allen could have stood in the corner and knocked down threes at 50% for however long he felt like it, right? But in the NFL, I guess you could do that as like a punter we've seen kickers, Morton Anderson and Gary Anderson, who we've mentioned on the show, played until their 40s and just kept, extending that record. But Brady, the thing with Brady is that he could really, if he really truly wanted to, he could break the whole system and upset a lot of players and especially the NFLPA. Like there's the veteran minimum, it stops at like 10 plus years where the number keeps increasing. So he could legitimately, if he felt like it, play football for $1.5 million and free up whatever team he's on's salary cap to do whatever they want. Like, this guy is crazy rich, like out of control rich. It doesn't matter to him at this point. So if he wants to play forever, he absolutely can, because you know what I mean? Like,
absurd. People would be so mad if Tom
Brady
would
lose their mind. But
Craig,
he could do
Craig
it.
said Tom Brady will never retire. He's eternal.
Yeah.
Tommy said multi-billion-dollar broadcast contract.
Yeah, it's a great point. That might make it a little bit easier to move on from football, Tommy. You're right. It might be a little bit easier to step away from the game when you got that. But to Coop's point, what does money even mean to him? Know what I mean? Like how much does more money really change his quality of life?
Yeah. So Craig, I saw Craig in the chat. He goes, okay, serious question. What sites do you guys prefer for stats like the ones Coop is going over? And the answer to that is all of them. So
There's so many.
Yeah. So I'll use, for instance, those stats I just pulled up. That's from Pro Football Focus, because I know that they have that particular stat there. I use Pro Football Focus for certain stat. Like, I trust their stats on drops, on attempts, because they don't include like obvious throwaways. But like for historical stats, I use Pro Football References StatHead. For stats against certain defensive types, I use 33rd Teams The Edge. For metrics, combine metrics, things like that, I use Player Profiler. Like, the more you do this, you're going to find different sites that you like different things for. For all the matchup stats, I use Fantasy Alarm. Like, across the board for DFS, for who's the best defense versus tight end versus running back versus everything, we have all that in our databases. Like, there's a million different sites, and you just got to find which ones you like best for different things. And I'm sure, like, if JL and Simon could name another 10 sites they use, I know JL's got a bunch of good ones. So
that's great. I love what you said. Like, I use them differently in different contexts, right? It depends on, and like you said, what are you looking at. Player Profiler is fantastic if you want to look at like a single player's like situation. You want like a snapshot of like, okay, what's happening for this player. PFF is really great at looking at like overall team stats, in my opinion, like team context. One underrated one I'll throw out that I use a lot that I think most people don't think of as a research site is the Fantasy Footballers website. They have a research website product that is available to their their members, their audience, and they've been building out like quietly over the last couple of years, really, really impressive research tools, really impressive profile pages for players and teams that organizes info really well, and like strength of defense, matchup type stuff like that just visualize it well, same as the other sites I have, but highly recommend that one. I don't think many people, mention that one enough.
And not sure if either of you guys brought this up already. My bad. I missed it. But the 33rd team, The Edge, I know Jordan Vanek has brought that up whenever he's come on the show, but for those advanced stats all in one place, it's pretty nice. They're putting together some pretty cool tools over there at the 33rd team as well that I've started using this year. It makes some of those harder to find or less accessible, like advanced statistics, especially for receivers, a little bit easier to find over there.
Yeah, and Scott Fish's matchup tool. Got to shout out that one.
Yeah. Scott Fish.
There's a lot of tools out there. So you really just got to find the ones that you like. The good thing about the 33rd team is that it's free. Like the Pro Football Focus one I mentioned is behind the paywall. A lot of the Fantasy Alarm stats are behind our paywall for our members. JL just mentioned that Football Guys behind the paywall. And the Pro Football Reference, I use that for
different guys.
If you're going back to you can go back to 1920 and you can sort like very specific stats. That's what I use that site for. That's also behind a paywall. So that's the thing. People can't, people work hard on these things. They're not always free. So use the 33rd team one while it's free, because they got a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Craig. I feel like it warrants probably a larger segment at some point. Maybe we'll throw that in.
Beautiful question. Guys, we've been talking a lot of trades. There was another potential trade that I wanted to bring up. The Packers, reports are coming out that they are all in on trading for Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool before the NFL trade deadline. They want him. They want him on that team. Coop, does this Does this rustle your jimmies? Does this get you excited? Does this tickle your fancy?
I would say all the above, all that weird stuff you said. Like, if, although, I mean, like, I'm not sure what Chase Claypool does that Alan Lazard doesn't. They seem like very similar and possibly redundant assets to me as like pseudo tight end sized big slot players. But I mean, the more options you can get over there for that team, the better. And if Claypool wants out, like Claypool might see the writing on the wall that if they're going to extend Deontay Johnson and they just drafted George Pickens and Pat Fryermuth is under contract for multiple years, then he might be looking at it and saying, I want to go somewhere where I can be a star. So maybe he's pushing his way out of town too. So I'd be down for that. Be good for fantasy football, I think.
Craig said Claypool will be a great tight end replacement for Tunyon.
I love
Winky face.
Winky. You naughty.
Oh, I see Dustin in the chat here. Good morning, Dustin. What up?
What's up, Dustin?
Oh.
I think it's better than being on the Steelers behind Deontay Johnson and George Pickens with some combination of Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky throwing him the ball, right? Like moving over to a core where you're probably the second option, maybe the third behind Dobbs if he jumps up there. So like at worst, it's the same order in the pecking order, but your quarterback's now Aaron Rodgers. Like your quarterback is now Aaron Rodgers.
Towards wide receivers.
Like
whenever
absolute sadist. Like,
yeah, but if they're trying
I
to
would rather be in Pittsburgh. I'd rather stay in Pittsburgh if I'm Chase Claypool. Like, I honestly don't think it helps him that much to be in Green Bay.
I think
just as much competition.
He doesn't have to do much to impress him because Aaron Rodgers is pissed about these rookies, right? He's come out and said already, like, whether or not I retire depends on these rookies' development. What a ridiculous quote to think about stuff. But like, Claypool's got to see that and be like, I just got to show up and not be a rookie, and I am in.
So we need to simplify the playbook, right? Like, you might as well just be like, these rookies are dumb as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like Chase Claypool isn't like he's gonna come in and just he's not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna kiss Aaron Rodgers' feet. He's like, I'm Mapletron, bitch. My favorite landing spot for any of these guys, Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, is whatever makes Twitter the most upset. Like, so if you could take Elijah Moore and somehow trade him within the division to the Bills, just to see all the Gabriel Davis people lose their mind, like that would be the ideal landing spot for me as somebody that likes to stir the pot.
I'm trying to think of other like iffy but hyped up wide receiver twos where it would really just ruin things. Like wide receiver twos that people are excited about, but they're not quite there. I don't know.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah. Oh, shots fired. Wide receiver 2, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Another big headline from today is Brett Rippon getting some reps in QB in Denver.
Letting it rip.
Russell Wilson dealing with some injury, that little hamstring injury. I also think his little pride's a little hurt, probably too. I think he's dealing with some maybe some existential crisis going on for Russell Wilson right now. You guys firing up Brett Rippon?
Oh, he's ripping cigs and roasting pigs, and he's ready to go.
Russell Wilson's dealing with a little bit of sandwich-related internet cyberbullying.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but like, come on, Russell Wilson. Like you have to know what you're doing with that sandwich commercial. It's intentional, right?
I thought the new one.
Purposeful.
I thought the new one was a little tongue in cheek. Like I thought he was being kind of cool with it, but then when they took it down, I was like, wait a second. Like I thought he was kind of making fun of himself a bit on the second one, which I was like, you know what, I'm on board with that. But then I kind of realized he wasn't.
Dustin messaged me on Twitter the other day and asked me, if you had to have an NFL quarterback as your daddy, like your real father, he is now your father, who would be your favorite and who would be your least favorite? Like, who would you want most? And I was sitting there thinking, and like, as much as I've talked about how cringy and difficult it is to watch Russell Wilson, if I have to pick one to be my father, it might be Russell Wilson. Know what I mean? Like, a dad who's corny as hell is not a bad thing. Like, he seems loving and he seems kind. He's just a corny ass dude. And I was sitting there, I was like, no, I can't write Russell Wilson. I can't, but I was like, he might be the guy that I want most. Like, he might
Sierra's your mom. You probably got all the coolest like family friends, like aunt and uncle.
The answer to both questions.
Beyonce.
The answer to both questions is Gardner Minshew.
The answer I did type to him was Gardner Minshew for the one that I would want most. I changed it from Russell Wilson, and I was like, I don't care that he's.
Would you
only
rather be married to like a celebrity school or Gardner Minshew?
Jake
Just think
Cutler.
about your quality of life in those two situations. Either one is your dad.
Blake Bortles. Like it's just like that's the answer of like who I'd want and who would also be the worst. Like
Jay Cutler.
Jay Cutler. It's a great.
How do we both go to Jay Cutler?
I think we
because
said,
the category of quarterback we've gone into now is the guys who rip cigs outside of Denny's. Like that
Which
is the
Jay
category.
Cutler invented that category.
Jay Cutler, Gardner Minshew, Blake Bortles, like these are the guys. They're out there in the Denny's parking lot just chain smoking cigs for
Ryan
an hour.
Fitzpatrick.
Jay Cutler also does like he's got some badass dad stuff on his resume too. Like he went to the combine and quarterbacks don't do the bench press at the combine, but Jay Cutler was like, I'm doing it anyway. And he repped out like 32 reps. And like literally he would have been like the number one tight end in bench press that year. He was just like, I'm doing it anyway. And then he showed up in Denver and he was like, yeah, I got a stronger arm than John Elway. And everyone was like, how dare you? And he was just like, well, I can throw it farther. That's just like, that's the kind of dad stuff I do kind of want on my side, you know?
Tommy with the worst guess of all time said Kirk Cousins, Mr. Greek yogurt. You'd be baby Greek yogurt.
He'd put some Greek yogurt in front of you for dinner and be like, you like that? You like that?
Eat it all.
Just imagine the first time you go to a restaurant and have a steak that wasn't cooked in tinfoil. And you're just like, oh my, what is this amazing meat candy? Like, what have I been eating this whole time?
Now you're speaking my language.
Craig in the chat saying, Simon, so help me if you besmirch Denny's. I never besmirched Denny's. Having Jay Cutler, Blake Bortles, and Gardner Minshew in the parking lot ripping cigs is an endorsement, if anything. Denny's is what it is, and it's fantastic. It's a beautiful diner breakfast place.
Swansea Sea Snakes had a dope choice here. Flacco as dad. That's the most elite dad that you could have.
Only in the playoffs.
I wouldn't mind.
Joey said my NFL daddy would be Carson Wentz because just like my real daddy, he never shows up.
You know what? More than saying,
that one's sad.
Wherever your comfort is, Joey. Wherever your comfort is.
Option was Zach Wilson.
I like how half these options are like younger than me. Like Kyler Murray would be my dad, and we'd play Call of Duty.
Zach Wilson's such a good pick.
Well, that's what I was running through the list of starting quarterbacks, and I was like, well, if I'm going with someone older than me, my options are fairly limited. Like, I'm not picking Tom Brady. Like that's just not happening. I'm not sure I want Matt Ryan as my dad. Matt Ryan was close though. Like if I have to pick one of these like older aging quarterbacks, Matty Ice would be the guy, right?
I would have gone to BC, bro. Right? Legacy. Dude, Zach Wilson's not like the dad, but he's like the dude that swoops in and dates your mom, and you're like, I'm not calling him dad.
Yeah, stepdad. He's like, you can call me dad if you want.
Just so you know, I'm not.
You're both 25.
He's like, hey, sport. I just want you to know, like, I'm not trying to replace your father, but like, I am here for you. Like, I got you, man.
Oh, actually,
you want to just go outside and play catcher?
If you wanted me to replace your father,
if you sneak a couple beers and you need someone to pick you up, like, give me a call. I won't even tell your mom.
Dude,
I'm here.
That would actually be the greatest way to get under his skin, dude. If like a younger dude was dating a dude younger than you was dating your mom, and you just started calling him dad, he would definitely be like, "Don't call me dad." Like, right?
Stop
That's my dad. But it'd be super funny. He would definitely be like, "Don't call me dad."
Like, Tommy and he's all right saying, I watch college ball and think these guys are older. Always a kid when watching ball. And I have a weird moment sometimes where I'll be watching college and they'll like flash to the quarterback, and it's very clear that he has never grown a facial hair in his life. Like not a single one. Like he's at that point, and I'm like, man, they're like actual children out here. And it's kind of crazy how much attention gets put onto these kids. Like when there's like a true freshman starting quarterback with all the hype, like, you know, some of these kids like just got armpit hair 6 months ago, and now they've got millions of people like with all this pressure on them.
Right. But some of these dudes, like even when they're young, they don't look like they're young. Like Greg Oden, for instance, like even when that dude was in college, I was like, that's a grown man.
That's a grown ass man.
Some of these guys look like grown ass men from the time they were like freshmen in high school.
Yeah.
Guys, coming up, we're going to break down that Thursday night football game that we all watched, and we've got some great guests coming on today as well. Our friend Vinny Iyer is coming on a little bit later, as well as competitive eater Randy Santel. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Surely, kickers never retire, I think. They just continue playing for all eternity. Like, there's only ever been 30 NFL kickers.
Yeah, they're always readily available too. It seems like, you know what I mean. Like they just get called up. They you kicked for us 10 years ago, right? Why don't you
run it back? That's right.
I imagine
Graham
every
Gano,
single kicker that gets the call is on a high school football field somewhere, just practicing field goals after hours. Like it's like 9 p.m. and they're out there just at the local high school kicking field goals, and the phone rings. They get a call and they're like, "Yeah, I'm ready. I've been practicing for this."
I have an amazing kicker story. If you guys have a second.
I got a couple.
The number one all-time field goal kicker is Adam Vinatieri. The next two guys are Morton and Gary Anderson, right? Gary Anderson was a dude from like South Africa that just played rugby and soccer. He just could absolutely boot the ball, right? They bring him over and he does like a tryout and he's just absolutely crushing the ball. And all these colleges are like, dude, we want you to come kick field goals for us. And he goes, I don't even want to play football. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, I want to play soccer. He goes, so if I can come to your school and play soccer, I'll also, in the fall, I'll kick for the football team. And Syracuse was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you're on the soccer team. Like, come on. And he went to Syracuse to play soccer, but also kick field goals. And then he ended up being a top 3-point scorer in the NFL all the time.
That's ridiculous.
And his answer to recruiters was, I don't want to play football. I'll do it in my spare time.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you got a spot for me in the soccer team. Syracuse is like, yeah, we got a spot for you.
We don't even care about our soccer team.
We don't even care.
We totally had that spot.
Right? They had to like cobble together a soccer team. This guy's the captain.
Oh my God. It's like Accepted, the movie, but they just like had to throw together a whole fake soccer team.
Somehow they still got Justin Long.
Right, yeah. Like, Adam Sandler's the coach. And dude, imagine they win the national championship. That's a movie, dog. Yeah.
Boom!
Someone call up Disney. Yeah, we just wrote a movie for you, Disney. This has Disney sports movie written all over. I'm borderline crying right here just thinking about this movie right now.
Dude, the story gets even crazier. Like I should have looked it up again, but like it was like a high school coach that went and found him, and then that high school coach ended up being somebody crazy famous that like coached for the Rams.
Stay tuned for sports. Talk about your picks, your fantasy teams, and your sports collectibles on Bettor Sports Network.
Hey, you're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. Guys, we had some questions come in the chat. Before we get to that, though, I see producer Keith asking the crowd, is the volume better on those commercials today? And it looks like it is. Did not scare the absolute shit out of Tommy. He's alive this morning. No poop in his pants. Right. You know what? You guys ask for things. We listen. We make it happen. We make it happen. That's what's going on here. Keith, you know what? Thank you for doing that for us. We really appreciate it, man. I was about to make a sassy comment and take all the credit for things that Keith did, but then I decided he gets the credit right here. He gets the credit.
We got some questions in the YouTube chat here, Simon. One here. Good day, gents from across the pond.
Good day.
Boy. Hey, good day, Mr.
What's up, Mr. Doku?
Running backs are a mess this season. What are you doing with the Broncos backfield? And is the next man up in Carolina obvious? What?
With the Broncos backfield, I'll start there. I'm plugging in Melvin Gordon and starting him this week. Like I am buying into the narrative. He seems like the better running back. They were struggling without him. Latavius Murray, like you said, Coop, like why were they just giving the ball to Latavius Murray to fall forward for 2 yards over and over and over again during that game? Something weird was going on. I think Melvin Gordon's still the lead back, even though Latavius Murray got all the work last week, and we'll see a correction this week. So I'm plugging him in. I'm cool with that. Dale, do you agree, or are you a little bit more hesitant with this Broncos backfield?
Yeah, I am hesitant. I want to see how it plays out. None of these guys have like a high enough upside for me to really force them into a lineup this week. So it's a wait and see situation.
Yeah, exactly what JL said. If your back is completely against the ropes and you're looking at like Melvin Gordon or like Rex Burkhead, then get him in there. But we're talking, anybody that is a lock for like 8 or 9, 10 carries and a couple receptions has to go ahead of him. Like if you have like Kenyon Drake, obviously he goes ahead. If you have any guy like that, you got to do it that way. And then for
I don't know that it
Carolina,
is obvious though. Like get someone like Kenyon Drake. Like maybe
Yeah,
that's a good way to approach this. Let's throw out some names that are, where's that line for you with say Latavius Murray or Melvin Gordon, those two guys.
I mean, like, well, they're on the same.
You starting Jamal Williams? Or you starting Latavius Murray?
I mean, if DeAndre Swift is out, then I'm starting Jamal Williams. If he's playing, maybe in a standard league, Jamal Williams, like we have to change the way we view these players when their roles change. Jamal Williams is always like the pass catching back, but he doesn't catch passes on this team. And even when DeAndre Swift was out, Craig Reynolds played that role. Like he's their goal line back. That's just how they roll. So I don't know about it in full PPR, but I don't know. Would you start Melvin Gordon or Jamal? Let's say Swift is back. Would you guys start Melvin Gordon or Jamal Williams?
Melvin Gordon. But if it's Latavius Murray, give me Jamal Williams. Like I'll start it. Jamal Williams lives in between those two guys for me.
And I guess we could use the obvious question that he actually gave to us in the chat. The next man up, in my opinion, is Donta Foreman. Chuba Hubbard has never been that great. They went out and got Foreman for a reason, who was pretty good. Would you start Donta Foreman or would you start Melvin Gordon?
Yeah. Man, that's a tricky one. That is a tricky one because both of these guys, preferably you would want to wait and see, right? Like you want to see a game where they're using them. I'd probably start Melvin Gordon. But man, I guess it comes down to like, what's the upside of, we're still hoping that Donta Foreman is the guy, that it's not Chuba Hubbard. And on top of that, it's on this Panthers team, right? Like probably the worst team in the NFL, especially with Christian McCaffrey gone now. So I think I lean Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I would lean Melvin Gordon until we see a clear leader emerge in that backfield in Carolina.
But Coop, you mentioned you went scooped up Donta Foreman in a couple leagues, so you do believe that he's the next guy up.
Well, yeah, like last night I was doing that, like just, as it happened, I was like, oh, I'm so sneaky, like doing this. But then I woke up this morning and it felt like I was like stealing books from the library. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? You could have had those anyway.
Sometimes you do that. Sometimes
it's
you
just called having a library card.
But yeah, they were just like, you could have had that at any time. You didn't.
That's basically me anytime I've ever gone to a library. It's just me stealing from the library.
I saw a TikTok the other day from a library, and they were like, hey, we run a no late fees library by principle because we don't want to shame people into not bringing our books back. And I was like, that would so work because my local libraries they're screwed out of the late fees and the books because I'm embarrassed to bring back a book like 6 months later. Like I have a book that I checked out pre-pandemic and then the pandemic hit and I couldn't return it during the due date. And then the pandemic, like the things started opening back up and it had been so long, I forgot about it. Then I found it the other day and was like, hey.
I wonder where I put this Rachel Ray cookbook.
No, it was Barefoot Contessa Jail. I have mastered the Rachel Ray cookbook. We're moving on to some advanced techniques over there. Squirrel Bob had a question, wanted to know, what do we do with CMC this week? If he's playing, you start him.
Yep.
You got to start him, right? You're not benching CMC. He's CMC. Like he's CMC. You play him.
Yeah.
How are he's a professional. Like they'll draw up some plays that are like, here's the ball, and also go stand over there. We'll throw you the ball. Like those are the plays that it's not like he's got to develop all these crazy timing routes with the quarterback, right? He should be fine.
DJ Duvernay in here saying, are you taking the slight chance in grabbing Elijah Moore off waivers in case he's traded or given more volume? Guys drop it in my league, and I could drop a player. Full PPR redraft.
I think that's a fine strategy if you just want to see if the trade rumors are smoke or if they're real. I don't expect the trade to happen. I think it's not likely that a trade will go through in the upcoming weeks, but I'm fine making that play if that is the best move for your team, right? If there's I wouldn't go and drop somebody who's producing for Elijah Moore, but if you have a spot, then sure.
Yeah, I think that's it. If he's on waivers, like I wouldn't trade for him. I think that's If you trade for him, you're taking on risk. But if he's just on waivers, then it's all upside and no risk, because the downside is he's been who he is, which is a guy you can't start. The upside is that they listen to him and give him the ball more, or he gets traded, which in that case he could become something that's valuable. So I think it's a kind of a no risk, all reward situation right now. I would rather have my wide receiver do what he's doing, do what Elijah Moore's doing, than just sit there and do nothing and be terrible.
At least he's saying something.
At least he's trying, right? Like some guys just sit there and they're just like, I'm just not any good. So,
guys, if you're enjoying what we're doing over here, if you want some more of us, make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy. Hit that subscribe button and check out the stuff that we are putting out daily. We're just having a lot of fun over there. We had one more question from Mr. Doku come in here. Another one from across the pond. Man, when I hear that phrase, in high school, I was just desperate to get out of the South. I ended up going to Clemson, so I didn't. But I started applying to schools all in the Northeast, and I found a website called Study Across the Pond. And I applied to multiple schools in the UK, got accepted to Middlesex, and was sitting there wondering, like, do I do it? Do I go across the pond for college? And then I said, nah. I went to one Clemson football game and was like, I'm going to Clemson. Like, I'm not turning that around. But acrossthepond.com or something like that. The next question from Mr. Doku that he had for us was, is it time to cut our losses with Michael Thomas, or do you ride him into the sunset? Jay, are you cutting your losses with Michael Thomas, or are you keeping him on your bench through this injury?
I have been meaning to look into what's going on with Michael Thomas this week, and I have not gotten around to it. Do we have any other what's the latest news on him?
He
didn't play in yesterday's game, so that's the latest, I think, of all the things we have.
We don't have much more information on this foot injury, right? It's just lingering. That's the only info they're giving us.
Some rumors of a possible trade have been floating around. I don't know. Yeah, it stinks in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Thomas, I would be fine cutting bait if there's a player who I think has more upside or has a chance to produce. Michael, you're in a tricky situation, right? With Michael Thomas, because he could come back and produce. He is talented, but man, lingering injuries, not the greatest situation that he's in with that team. So I don't know.
Mr. Doku says, come to England, dude. We'll show you the sites. Dude, I am coming to England. Legit in like a couple weeks. So should be a DM on Twitter at Coop A Fiasco. Would love to grab a point while I'm out there. Maybe catch you a game.
He's gonna kill you. He's gonna be like, never mind, you asshole.
Never mind. Yeah. Is that kosher to do those? I mean, I think it's hilarious when other people do American accents.
Oh my god, that's one of my favorite things in the world, because
it's the best.
Especially when they do the typical bro accent. Like, I feel like that's one of the like go-to American accents that people go to, and I just love it when like this dude's talking in like a proper British accent that just whips. It makes me realize maybe like how ridiculous we sound to people who don't have this accent, like, because it's so normal to me. But then when a British dude does it, I'm like, yo, that sounds silly. That is silly. That's a silly accent he's doing. It is
silly, dude. I like when they do like the John Wayne one too. Like that's always a good one. Like bad cowboy accent. That stuff cracks me up. So I encourage that, but maybe, I don't know. Some places don't like that.
I love it. I love it when that happens.
Jordan Loop said the same thing in the chat. I like when they try to sound like a cowboy. Yeah, that is funny, dude.
There was a girl who was a German foreign exchange student in some of my engineering classes in college. And I remember telling her that like my family was Dutch and everyone was Dutch. And she told me that to Germans, they always say that Dutch sounds like a drunk German trying to talk English. Like there's enough similarities from Dutch to English and to German that like people just talking in Dutch sound like drunk Germans speaking English is how that sounds. And ever since she said that, like I can't unhear that in the Dutch language. Like I'm just listening to it and I'm like, it does kind of sound a little bit like drunk English with a slight German accent on there, a little bit bouncy.
Keep the ear out for that while I'm over there doing my recon. I'm going to do my best to pop in on the show and do a little Coop in Europe segment. We'll have to see what the internet's like. I already set up my phone plan for the best possible situation. So added all the countries to the list.
Had an idea yesterday in the show. I was like, we should have Coop just send us like a short little video diary every day of like your time there. And then Simon and I every morning can check in with you.
We can open your diary. We can open your diary every morning.
We'll see
just a ween shot.
Yeah. Just sending you guys videos from inside Anne Frank's house. Like,
yeah, you just gotta make it like you trying to like you trying to relay the information you got from a tour guide to us,
This
like
is how
really wrong.
this is
When I
how I'm
went to the-
excited I am for this. I already checked it out, and you're actually not allowed, unfortunately, not allowed to take video inside of Anne Frank's house. Let's see if I can get away with it. You know, break the law. Be modern day Anne Frank. You know what I'm saying?
I went to the
What's
Anne
up?
Frank house when I was a kid, and my dad, I remember
Hogs-
like
you can't hogs up Anne Frank, dude. Like,
Anne Frank was a badass. You absolutely can.
Yes,
She
you
was an
can, yeah.
absolute badass. Have you read her diary?
yes.
Biggest
All right,
hog
all right.
was-
Hogs up for Anne Frank, dude. Smash
Hogs
that
up
fun
for Anne
button for Anne Frank in the chat. Let's go.
Yeah, one of the
But I
goat
remember
hogs of
having
all
extreme
time.
guilt leaving the Anne Frank house because like my dad, whenever we were going in, he started talking Dutch to the person behind the counter buying tickets and all this stuff, and like got a little animated. And I was like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And we get in there, and my dad tells him like, "Yeah, I just lied and said that you were 9, so that you could get in free or whatever the age was." Like I was 11 and I was short for my age, so my dad lied to get me in free. I was like, "Dad, we're at the Anne Frank house. You can't lie to get me in free. Like just pay for the ticket." But again, he's paying for it. I was a child, but I had like severe guilt as a kid about not paying for my ticket to the Anne Frank house.
I'm just saying though, that's kind of an Anne Frank move. You know what I mean? You're kind of sneaking around, dude, breaking the rules. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You were a little Anne Frank yourself at one point, I feel.
Sick experience though. I'm excited that you're gonna get. If you go in there, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool place to go visit.
Think about it.
We had some more questions in the chat. DJ Duvernay said, "Are you using Evan Ingram or Hayden Hurst as a tight end rest of season, full PPR, redraft mode? I dropped one of the tight ends here for Elijah too. So you guys think that's okay? So Ingram or Hurst, Coop, and you cool dropping the other one for Elijah Moore?
Yeah, for sure. Evan Ingram's who I'm going with, especially in full PPR. Hayden Hurst basically has 2 good games, and they were the 2 games where T. Higgins was banged up. The reality of this team is that, you know, when I go through it, who do you think gets more targets the rest of the season? Let me ask you guys. Hayden Hurst or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase.
Hayden Hurst or Tyler Boyd?
Wait, you didn't wait for my answer.
Tyler Boyd.
JL?
Jamar Chase.
That's such a good pick, dude. Hayden Hurst or T. Higgins?
T. Higgins.
All right, so now he's already 4th in that pecking order. Hayden Hurst or Joe Mixon? Keep in mind, Joe Mixon currently has more targets than Hayden Hurst.
Mixon.
Joe Mixon.
So at best, he's 4th on that team, and we all think he's 5th in targets on that team. So either the guy in your league who has Joe Burrow has already won the league, or Hayden Hurst is probably just going to be okay, basically touchdown dependent guy. So get him out of my sight. Give me Evan Ingram. He has 16 targets in the last 2 games. Line him up, lock him down. Let's go.
Hogs up. Evan
Hogs
Ingram.
up and out. A-O-A.
Hogs up and out, not just
Far more
That-
aggressive.
hogs up and out.
Hogs.
A.
Up and at 'em, boys. Good morning.
Oh, absolutely incredible. One more question from DJ Duvernay, then we'll talk some Thursday night football. So do you guys think Wan'Dale Robinson will turn up full PPR? Well, yes. Yes, I do think Wan'Dale Robinson will turn up. I loved what I saw from him in a very limited snap share when he was on the field. He was heavily targeted, and I think they were just working him back in. And this is a team completely devoid of a wide receiver 1. Someone's got to do it, or no one has to, but there's a hole. And Wan'Dale Robinson, it could be a perfectly sized Wan'Dale Robinson hole, a nice little hole for a wide receiver 1 that Wan'Dale Robinson can just slide into.
Be careful with what you're saying. If you start besmirching Richie James up in here, then Better Boss is going to show up in the chat, cast a spell on you. Dude.
Meow.
That's his boy, dude. That's his boy.
He's going to cast the spell on me.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what Boss
excited
does,
for
dude.
Wan'Dale Robinson, but he only
And
got 4 targets last game.
Here's how.
So I'm
here's how
not,
the spell
he's going
goes.
against Jacksonville
You're fired.
this week as well. So is what it is.
I mean, JL, yes, he only got 4 targets, but he only played on 15 offensive snaps. He was targeted on over 30% of the routes that he did run. Like this dude was killing it whenever he was on the field. I truly think like his usage when he was on the field tells me that's how they want to use him. They just had him on limited snaps. It's not like he had limited snaps and limited usage. He had limited snaps, high usage when he was on the field.
There it is.
So that's where my confidence comes from. Like he was coming back from injury. It makes sense that they put him on that limited snap share. So I'm not saying necessarily like he's going to kill it right away, though I think he's a great start this week. But going forward, like I that was very promising, like how heavily used he was when he was on the field, even though it was a small sample size.
My one concern for Wan'Dale Robinson is that he's a smaller player, and sometimes these guys struggle with blocking. And what happens when you struggle with blocking is that they use other guys like tight ends and stuff. That's what the Cardinals did with Rondale Moore. Why Rondale Moore only played a partial snap share is that these coaches, so annoying for fantasy football, they care about run blocking. And sometimes they'll use like a Tanner Hudson or Chris Myrick instead of using the smaller guys. So I don't know if he'll ever get to 100% snap share, but I'm not sure he needs to get to 100% to be fantasy relevant. But we have something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. Could cap his upside over there. Tommy in the chat saying, did you hear Al Michaels drop the Sir Plant last night? No, but I did hear Al Michaels slander Taylor Swift fans that were not
out of my
teenage
lane,
girls.
bro.
Do we need to cease and desist Al Michaels, bro?
I think
do we need to patent that?
Yeah.
Keith?
Yeah. Patent is the right thing that we need for the job. That's the tool for the job here.
Right. Keith, make sure you copyright that.
I think we already copyrighted it, if I'm not mistaken. Tommy did it. Also, Tommy in the chat saying, hey, we get a little without me for Rodrigo. Guess who's back? Rodrigo Blankenship showed up, and he missed one extra point, but he had a decent game, right? Showed up and came out there, showed up for the Cardinals. It was just the one extra point he missed, right?
You know his dad threw the remote through the television when he missed that extra point, right? Like his
I gotta
dad
see if I can
definitely lost his marbles on that. You can't be missing an extra point in your first game back into the league. Like, come on, Rodrigo. Shine up those glasses, my boy.
Let's see. I was trying to see if I could find the website that his dad created for him. It didn't come up in an immediate Google search. I'll have to look for that. I'll have to peek around and see if it still exists. Might have to go into like one of those like I forget what they're actually called, but like the internet time machines where you can like see pages from a different date in the past that are like no longer up there. Might have to find one of those like archived versions of this Rodrigo Blankenship story. Or Rodrigo Blankenship's dad's website right there. Did we have any other questions in the chat? I think that was it right there. Craig wants to know, do you guys have guest co-hosts lined up for when Coop is back in the motherland? We got all sorts of stuff lined up. Me and JL are going to it's hogs on the loose when Coop's gone. There's no rules when Coop's not here, right? I'm pretending like I get to play with that too. You guys keep on playing up whenever I'm gone. There's no rules. I want to play up.
You were the one that follows the show sheet, dude. If it wasn't for you, we would just be hogs.
What's his show sheet?
Coop, you did not watch when you were gone. Simon and I did not go off anything. we let it rip, dude. Bro. We Beybladed the hell out.
I did watch a bit. The thing is,
guys,
it's real early where I was, and we were drinking quite a few beers, so it's kind of hard to get up in time for that show.
Makes sense.
Makes
sense. Guys, coming up, we're going to talk about this Thursday night football game, and then we've got two great guests coming on with us a little bit later as well. Vinny Iyer of Sporting News is joining the show again, and then we've got Randy Santel, competitive eater, holder of the world record for food challenges completed, coming on the show later today as well. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Front Yard Fantasy, weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
There was a tweet about the refs that had me kind of cracking up the other day because somebody was like, we have the technology to track the ball down to a centimeter and figure out, what speed these guys are running on the field. Yet somehow we still mark the ball by
That's my favorite.
A 60-year-old dude eyeballing it, and then we run over with literal chains and measure it. It's like, you think we can probably get that figured out.
The least precise way to measure something, and then immediately following that up with a super precise way of measuring something.
Yeah, it's like we have satellite.
Like if you're a millimeter short of that chain that they bring out there, that they ran out it as best they could in a straight line. But if you first they just go here, and then they grab the chains and they run in the straightest line possible. But then if you are 1 millimeter short with that football, doesn't count. Sorry. Couldn't have been human error. You're just short.
That's exactly. And they bring out the index card or whatever. Meanwhile, they have satellites in space tracking how fast Brandon Ayuk ran on an end around. But we can't.
And I can see that number live while he's doing it. Like I can see every player's speed on the screen live.
I love that. It's and not to mention that dude's trying to make the spot, and the player always tosses the ball right into his face. right? Like he's coming over to spot it, and it's like every other time the player just like, here you go, here's another thing to juggle.
On call with Dr. Roto.
If the Giants don't win another game this year, A, I'll be shocked. But B, I'll still think that they're better than they were with Joe Judge. Much better. Because I think Brian Dable's got a lot out of this team already. And I'm seeing what this team could be. See, that's the problem with owners and general managers. I see Nathaniel Hackett and I see a guy who can't get it done. I see Matt Rule and see a guy who never should have been hired. Disaster right away. Sometimes a good coordinator in the NFL is better. I don't even say sometimes. Most of the time, a good coordinator in the NFL is better than a college coach because the NFL coordinators, they know the system. They've been there. They've played. They've been around it. For the life of me, I don't know why Eric Bieniemy hasn't gotten a job yet. Deuce Staley's going to get a job. Somebody's going to hire that dude. When you've been around the game, you understand it. These college guys come, they don't know it.
Join the show with one touch of a button. It's Sports Talk 3.0 on Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. We are back on this beautiful Friday morning, and we had a football game last night. That we should probably talk about a little bit. I know we've hit on some of the points from it, but I want to make sure we're talking about everything that happened in that game last night. Man, my Arizona defense first touchdown call didn't happen. But there were a couple defensive touchdowns for those Arizona Cardinals right there at the end of the first half that made me feel a little bit vindicated in calling that out. The last 2 minutes of that first half, I'm not sure I've seen something like that. Like, it's been a long time. Like the Saints were up, and then all of a sudden, like, that was less than 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, and the Cardinals scored 22 points at the end of that first half. Like, that was brutal. That was just, I could not believe what I was watching there on that second pick six. I was like, no way. Like, no way he just did that again.
Pretty ugly. There's an amazing clip of Wilson, like one of the cameramen, which it is an underappreciated art, being these cameramen and setting up the perfect shots. But one of the cameramen caught a picture of Andy Dalton just so upset about throwing a pick while directly behind him, the dude is doing a literal front flip into the end zone. Yeah.
I tweeted out the video. I said, this is art.
Yeah. JL tweeted out. I was like, damn, like, kudos to the photographer. Like, photographers need more credit. Maybe now that Randy Johnson's a photographer at the games, they'll start getting a little more recognition.
That's going to be one of those pictures that, like, when you first walk into the Hall of Fame, they have all those like photographs of the year, like where they're giving out awards for the best pictures. Andy Dalton's going to be sad to see him memorialized right there because that is a sick shot, like just an absolutely sick shot. But man, poor Andy Dalton. I started wondering if we were going to see Jameis in the second half whenever that happened.
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring the Randy Johnson picture thing full circle, right? You guys saw that, right? That Randy Johnson takes pictures at NFL games. He's like a legit photographer now.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the MLB pitcher, Randy Johnson, the big unit, one of the most famous.
Was it Arizona guy?
He played for Arizona and for Seattle. He played for a couple of teams, mostly Arizona, right? Big unit, big lefty. He has always been a huge like a photography fan, and he actually got so good at it that he does photography for real NFL games. You see him on the sidelines in the thing with the big thing, like he's out there, right? One of the most famous things that happened with Randy Johnson was he hit a bird with a pitch and it exploded. Right? You remember that, right?
Yeah, I used that video in like a physics presentation in middle school. I threw it into my PowerPoint.
Okay. Well, the batter for that play was a guy named Calvin Murray, and his nephew is a current NFL player. Do you know who that is?
Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray's uncle was the batter.
Latavius Murray.
God damn it, JL. You are Kyler Murray's uncle was the batter when Randy Johnson exploded that bird. And now Randy Johnson's out there taking pictures of Kyler Murray on the sideline of NFL games. You cannot make stuff up. folks.
If you did not already
hey.
believe, we are in a simulation. This is proof right there, conclusive evidence.
Yeah.
Me and Sammy Watkins will be talking to you around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Everyone's a robot but you.
Yeah, don't get into that simulation talk. Like, I feel like I use, like, sometimes it just sucks me. And sometimes I can think about it and I'm like, no problem. Like, maybe that's the case. And then sometimes I think about it, I'm like, man, I'm not
it's the
sure.
most likely truth. I can get into this because I love this. I love this topic, but I think it's one of the more likely probability. Or
I was talking about it with my girlfriend the other day, where it was like the logic that people say whenever they say we live in a simulation is if technology gets to the point where we can fully simulate a universe, which we're not there yet. The computing power to do that's insane. But if we can get to that point and we do that, then the odds of us being in a simulation are almost 100%, because there would just be one original universe. But because we could once means that within that universe, they could do it. They could do it. They could do it.
Rick and Morty.
There's an infinite number right there. Man, I hate this conversation. This is one of those ones where like it's like 1 a.m. You were at the bars all night with your friends, and now you found a random park and you're sitting on this bench by the lake, just being like, man, what if we're in a simulation? That's the proof we're in a simulation right there. That wouldn't happen.
I'll tell you, that line of thinking makes it hard to get up for work in the morning. But I will say, Jordan Loop says a dead bird is his photography logo. Go look it up. I just did, and it is Randy Johnson's photography photo. Is this like artsy looking bird that's like clearly dead? But I mean, the bird that he hit, let's just say it was in a few more pieces than this bird on the logo.
It exploded. It full exploded. Like, it was just unbelievable. And the video's an older video, so it's a little bit grainy, but you can fully see that bird just explode. What are the odds? Man, he was just flying around having himself a good day. The other one, I didn't know Randy Johnson was so into photography. I should have known that, but he's probably got like a different angle than other, like, that dude's tall as hell, right? Like, he's like 6'10, 6'11 or something like that. Like, that's a big man.
You're at the game trying to watch, and this is just a Sasquatch in front of you taking pictures. Like, will you please sit down? Hey, Randy. Please.
I see Lucius in the chat. Morning, guys. Morning, Lucius. Welcome in. He said, thanks for the Taysom call last night. I know it hurt to give, but it worked out. It did. I tweeted out in the middle of the game. It's like Taysom Hill, IRL, and just the picture of, you remember like Madden key moments? You simulate all the way up until like the third quarter or like the last drive, and then you get to come in and be the hero. That's all Taysom Hill is. I honestly, I think he might have the best job in the NFL. I watched him right after he scored. They went like close up on him, and he's just like, cheesing.
I had that same moment yesterday where I was like, man, like,
dude,
why do I hate this guy so much? Because he's like, it's because his usage doesn't match up with his stats, but like, I gotta stop hating on him so much because he's having fun out there. Like, he's having fun.
I'll tell you what though, dude. I swear, it's like this dude only exists to make us wrong. Like, we finally came around on this dude. We finally came around and we're like, look, you can start him over any touchdown dependent guy because he gets the rushing touchdowns. But here's the thing: in PPR, he doesn't ever catch passes. What does this dude do? He goes out and he catches a pass. Since when does this guy catch passes, dude? Like, what?
I don't hate him anymore. Isn't it like his second catch of the year?
Right.
Or something.
I'm now on the
like
opposite end. I'm now taking the opposite stance. I'm the biggest Taysom Hill stan. Like, that dude.
Gotta be.
Hell yeah. You gotta just keep going, bro. Just keep fighting. Nobody's gonna believe in you if you don't believe in you, Taysom.
Ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous, man. He's the glitch in the Matrix, dude. He's like when you see the same black cat twice, like that's Taysom Hill catching a pass for a touchdown after not having a target since week 1.
That's how you do it, bro. Fade out all of us sitting here shitting on Taysom all the time. He just fade that out. Doesn't even listen to us.
Right. We
said out and play.
We said all that matters is rushing touchdowns. Then he throws a touchdown.
He's like,
pass.
oh, okay.
He throws one. Then we're like, okay, he's a good bet to score 2 touchdowns, rushing, but he's not going to catch the ball. He catches the ball. Say something he won't.
No way he can kick a field goal.
No chance he runs back a kick for a touchdown. Right?
No way he can GM the New Orleans Saints.
Taysom Hill back there to return a kickoff. That is an image. I feel like usually they got like smaller guys back there, like these small, shifty guys that have a massive Taysom Hill just barreling down the field would be hilarious.
They wouldn't know what to do.
EJ thinking the same thing I am. He said GM. Yeah. Taysom Hill is just going to start. He's going to be the new owner of the New Orleans Saints next season.
Taysom running back a kick. I bet like the guys on the kick, like the kickoff team, they would just be doing the thing what you do when you like pretend to tackle a kid and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly what it looked like. Whatever he does is magic. So it would be impossible to get him no matter how slow he's running.
I don't understand him. I'm not going to pretend to understand him, but he's fantasy relevant and he's fun to watch.
He's only in for fun plays. Like, I feel like he is us. Like we should be the biggest Taysom Hill stands because he's only in for the fun.
He's just in there.
He's not like he's not in on a blocking play. He's not in for any play where he's not gonna somehow score the touchdown.
No, and if he doesn't get that touchdown yesterday, then you're probably pretty mad again, right? Like that one catch saved the week, and that's the Taysom Hill experience. Because outside of that, he threw 2 passes for 48 yards. You didn't get much from that, and then he ran the ball 3 times and only picked up 9 yards. We're not happy about that.
It would have been It would have been back-to-back. It would have been back-to-back perfect games where you're just like, see, sucks. But then he scored that touchdown. Played a million snaps on special teams again. Just this guy, dude.
I saw people calling for him to take over for Andy Dalton after that second pick 6. I thought there might have been a chance they put him in there. But Dalton, if you start him for fantasy, I know he threw 3 interceptions, including those 2 pick 6s. So if your league has big penalties for pick 6s, it might have been a bad week. But he put up decent enough numbers outside of that to overcome it, right? 361 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns through the air as well. 2 of them going to the tight end that you said could be a good start this week, Coop. Mr. Juwan Johnson catching 2 touchdowns. Is he anything when Adam Troutman comes back, whenever Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry are healthy, or is this strictly the starter in front of him's hurt and the other receiving options are hurt as well?
He always has been. I mean, like he's run more routes than Adam Troutman in every single game. I think it's just a matter of like Andy Dalton probably was working with the second team in practice, and that's where Adam Troutman was. So, you know, they had some timing routes or whatever. But when Jameis Winston comes back, I'm leaning fully back into Juwan Johnson. Last week it was an easy call because Troutman was out and Michael Thomas is out and Jarvis Landry was out, and the Cardinals are one of the very worst teams in the league versus the tight end. But we talked about that on this show, and that's why, like me, you guys had Juwan Johnson in your lineups, right? Right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Definitely have Juwan Johnson on all my rosters after you told me to do that, Coop.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
No, I did have Juwan Johnson in one league where I started.
I didn't.
One league where I threw Juwan Johnson into my lineup, and my girlfriend had Juwan Johnson in one league where she threw him into the lineup. So that worked out pretty. Man, I get such props whenever like she like calls me or sits me down. She's like, "What should I do? Who should I start?" And I say something and it works. Like it's always like, "Oh, you were so smart." Like it's like for some reason, any other call I make, it doesn't matter. But if I get a fantasy call right for her team, I'm the smartest guy in the world. Absolutely killed it.
Brendan in the chat saying, "Will we see another Kyler Murray 20-point game? This dude is just frustrating to play every week." You just think about Kyler Murray. Is the situation going to get any better?
You got to keep playing them, and you got to hope this offense gets better, right? This was the first time we've seen. I know their defense helped out scoring 14 of those points, right? But even without that 14, they still put up quite a few points on the board offensively, and hopefully we're seeing this turn the corner.
He continues to do one thing. As a rookie, I criticized him for this one thing. And I was like, he's a rookie, but this is a coaching problem. Coaches need to make sure he's not doing this anymore. And he's still doing it in this year, his 3rd or 4th year, I don't even know what it is. But when you get out of the pocket, you shouldn't be going out of bounds with the ball in your hand 6 or 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Throw the ball, dude. Like once you're out of the pocket, all you have to do is throw it past the line of scrimmage. You don't have to even throw it near any wide receiver. So it's inexcusable to be taking a sack by going out of bounds with the ball in your hand. It's lazy, and it's bad coaching. Because, I mean, unless the kid is immune to coaching, you have to know that you can just throw it. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is he doing? He did it multiple times. He's done it so many times. I've seen this guy do it so many times. He did it again last night, and they basically had to punt out of their own end zone. All he had to do is flick his wrist and just go like that. Like, every other quarterback in the league has no problem doing that. But Kyler Murray, for some reason, just, he scrambles around, and in his mind, it's a run play. You can just throw it.
You can just chuck it as long as you're still behind that line of scrimmage. As long as your toenail's still behind that line of scrimmage.
And Tony Romo, that's what this Amazon Prime crew, like they briefly mentioned kind of that he, took a sack, but like they should have been crucifying this guy. Tony Romo would have killed him for doing that. Like he needs to be held accountable for stuff like that.
Coop, do you think Tony Romo should have his own red zone show?
friend of mine said that. The
Careful.
thing is, I would weigh in on that, but
Tread carefully.
Speaking of getting crucified, a friend of mine did say something like that, and he got murdered. Jail, you totally sold that tweet to me differently too. You were like, "Hey, be careful saying a pro Tony Romo tweet because the hounds will get sick on you." I didn't realize that you said that he should take over NFL Red Zone. Which
see, Coop, you made the mistake that most people mistake. Reading comprehension. I never said replace Scott Hanson. I just said I just want concept with Tony Romo.
So they do have. There are two different red zones.
There is Siciliano's red zone on DirecTV.
I think if you said Tony Romo should replace Siciliano, people would.
I didn't say. I don't. It had nothing to do with Scott Hanson.
If you didn't say that Scott Hanson should lose his job and be fired and be out on the streets, if you said Siciliano instead, I think it would have been a little easier on people.
I see now. So I see now the misunderstanding is that people don't know the difference between a TV channel and a human being. Right. Same thing. Scott Hanson is red zone.
Yeah, I was speaking on
Siciliano's wearing a Scott Hanson skin suit essentially every Sunday.
I was speaking on behalf of everybody on Twitter that just jumped on you there. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty reasonable tweet. I like Tony Romo. I think he's awesome.
That was pretty funny. I loved scrolling through the replies and seeing just people ripping you to shreds.
No, it's my favorite thing on Twitter is like because it's just like that's what I'm going for with some of those like the King Kong shit. Like I just love getting dragged on that. It's so funny.
It was pretty awesome. Benjamin was a guy that we were pretty okay with starting yesterday, and he put together a pretty good game. 12 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Added 4 catches through the air, 21 yards. Benjamin looked decent, but Keontae Ingram got some work as well. He didn't look as good on the ground, averaging less than 2 yards a carry. I think it was pretty bad. 1.6 yards a carry, turned 9 carries into 14 yards, but he got the touchdown as well yesterday. What are we doing with this Arizona backfield? Is it just plug Benjamin in until James Conner's back, and then all these guys are nothing?
That's about right.
I
think we'll have a pass down roll still, but like James Conner, they love he's got a nose for the end zone. You know what I mean? Scored 18 touchdowns or whatever it was.
Sniffing it. God, that was absurd, the number of touchdowns that James Conner had last season, wasn't it? Just absolutely absurd. Greg Dortch also got himself a touchdown, and I saw I think it was Breathing Fantasy Football literally. Yeah, I was in here saying thought of you guys when Dortch got that TD last night. Everybody got some love except for Ertz and Moore. Yeah, Joe, you finally convinced me on Rondale Moore. And I still think your logic was sound. Like I'm not disparaging the call. Everything you were saying lined up, made sense. I was in. And then what happened? Like Rondale Moore was just not involved.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with you, Simon. You can't look at the outcome of this and be like, not look at the process, which is the important part here. It's, Rondale Moore, seemingly a big part of this offense. I'm not going to take this one game and extrapolate that he's not going to be a big part of it. I think this is a matter of they're figuring themselves out, right? They're feeling, we're already seeing Kyler and Cliff. They're yelling at each other. There's not a full cohesion, right? They're figuring things out. You got new players coming back in the mix now that they got to figure out as well. So I think this is going to be some growing pains. It was unfortunate. I really wanted to see more Rondale Moore last night.
Well, in Jail's defense, right, here's how the snap percentages shook out. DeAndre Hopkins played 92% of the snaps, which he should because he's amazing. Rondale Moore played 89%. So right there, we're talking 61 snaps for Hopkins, 59 for Moore. After that, it was Greg Dortch played 53%. So we're 89 to 53 is a big drop down. And then Robbie Anderson played 18%. The question now, assuming Hollywood's out for a long time, which he is, the question now is, as Robbie Anderson comes up, does Greg Dortch's snaps go down or does Rondale give up some of those snaps? I think Rondale Moore keeps his snaps and Greg Dortch's goes down as Robbie comes up. So if I had to bet rest of season, which of these players would score more points, it would still be Rondale Moore, the guy playing 90% of the snaps versus 50 and 20. So I think the thought process is right. That's the thing is you have to look at it and say, did I give myself the best chance to succeed? And starting Rondale Moore and having him play 90% of the snaps did give yourself the best chance to succeed. He had the second most yards on the team, right? It just so happened that DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. So
that's what I was going to say. Is I'm not
14 targets.
I'm not sure it matters here because the Cardinals are also going to do what's best for them to succeed, put themselves in the best position. And based on what I saw last night, I think that's throwing the ball to DeAndre Hopkins 15 times a game. I think that's how they put themselves in the best position to succeed. It took them a little bit to get into rhythm. Like we saw Kyler and Nuke kind of working things out in the first half. They weren't on the same page, saw some struggles, but God, did he just remind us how good of a football player he is, right? Like DeAndre Hopkins was like, remember me? Like I'm back and I'm going to be a problem.
Yeah, he's such a good wide. I feel like what we're seeing here is exactly what happened with Deshaun Watson when he came in the league, when he was a rookie. Came into that Houston offense, which was awful at the time, just truly bad. And DeAndre Hopkins, I think, was his only main weapon there, if I remember correctly. And he just fed him. Like he locked on to DeAndre Hopkins, and everyone made fun of him when he was first starting out. It's like, he's just it's just got basically his take locker. He's just hyper focused on his first read, doesn't ever look elsewhere. But I feel like maybe DeAndre Hopkins is that type of like they can use him to help Kyler develop, right? Because that's been a whole narrative this whole past season is that Kyler is not developing to be the NFL quarterback that he can be based off his talent. And, that's what I saw last night was, okay, they're going to use DeAndre Hopkins to help be that sort of security blanket.
And the whole narrative that like, that's not a good way to play this game went out the window last year when Cooper Kupp got 191 targets and they won the Super Bowl, right? Like you can just throw it to one guy. Apparently it's not that big a deal. So if you have that guy that's locked in, the Rams kind of just proved that you can get away with it. 191 targets and they won the Super Bowl, Cooper Kupp. And that's just during the regular season, 191 targets. During the playoffs, I'm sure later I can actually pull it up because we have the technology. During the playoffs, he had another
million targets.
Actually,
this is absolutely thrilling to wait while we find out how many targets Cooper Kupp had in the playoffs.
We need to show where Coop just like narrates his day as he goes through it.
It would just be Coop. It would just be Coop singing little jingles all day. Walking to the bathroom. Feed my dog.
Oi, why am I having a hard time pulling this up?
It's all good.
He had 42 targets in the playoffs. So
now your point stands more.
On the whole, he had 1 billion targets. If you add his regular season to that 42,
233
rounds up to 1 billion.
Rounds up to 1 billion. I think it's pretty close over there. No, but DeAndre Hopkins, you're starting him every single week going forward, right? Like there's no questions. He's in your lineup on a points per game basis the rest of season. How do you view him as a wide receiver 1, top 10, top 5? Like how high is DeAndre Hopkins in your rest of season rankings?
I don't know. JL was telling me that he's starting Christian Kirk over him. So...
Yeah.
Are you starting Christian Kirk over him next week?
Probably not now. No.
Probably not now.
But I'm also not going to lock him into like top 5. I'm not ready to do that. But
yeah. Christian Kirk could come out and have a better game than that. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, so we can't count your chickens before they hatch.
Talent wise, they're totally different realms, right? DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk.
DeAndre Hopkins. I lost my voice right there. It just disappeared on the way out. Guys, coming up, we have our friend Vinny Iyer from Sporting News joining the show. We're going to talk to him about some of these games coming up this weekend. And then our friend Randy Santel, Competitive Eaters, joining the show a little bit later today as well. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Live with Rick Kamla at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on Bettor Sports Network.
Andy Reid is the best current coach in the NFL. He's better than Belichick. Belichick has lost his way. He's better than Tomlin. He's better than Harbaugh. He's better than Shanahan. He's better than McCarthy down in Dallas. He's better than all of the gangster NFL coaches right now. Sean McDermott up in Buffalo, he's better than all these guys. Andy Reid is the greatest gangster that we have at head coach in the NFL right now. And I understand that you're saying, well, Belichick is the GOAT, Cam. How can that be true? Now you're bringing up old stuff. Bill Belichick can't draft anymore, okay? Talk to me. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. Talk to me. DK Metcalf, Debo Samuel versus N'Keal Harry. Okay, talk to me. This dude has lost his way. Remember the year when he should have bottomed out and just tanked, but he couldn't, and he went and got Cam Newton, and they were a mediocre team, right? He's lost his way. And not that he can't coach up a good defense and that kind of thing, But overall, he's lost his way. Andy Reid's an absolute badass. They draft great. He's a great coach. Makes the right decisions, when to go for it, when to kick, when to punt. The guy's the man.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
I hate the stupid unsportsmanlike conduct. As long as you're not disrespectful to the opponent, you should be allowed to celebrate.
How I used to say it, and to bring up, because now basketball's starting, I'm going to bring up personal.
Oh, dude, it's even worse than basketball, isn't it?
So Dikembe Mutombo, who used to get teed up in the 2000s, in the 90s, they didn't give a crap. 2000s, though, when they tightened up the rules, they used to tee him up more when he did the Dikembe finger wag. But they wouldn't tee him up if he did it to the crowd instead of looking at, like, Eton Thomas, like one time I remember, and doing it right to him, or when his back was turned, doing it right to him. If he did it to the crowd, they would never call it. And so that makes me wonder if these players, while, yeah, they want to talk a little smack, maybe they should flex towards the crowd than at the player who they're standing over.
I guess.
I know again, it's soft, man.
It is soft.
Because you know what?
Like we're gonna give 15 yards for that,
bro. They think that, you know, want to know why they're paranoid? They think that's gonna turn into a fight.
See, I disagree with that. That's not going to start a fight.
I agree with you. They don't agree with us.
It's one thing, okay, if you spit in someone's face or say something derogatory, like about their family or something,
right,
yeah, that can incite it. But if you're just like, yeah, I made that play, what? You know what I mean? Like, again, they know the rules. You got to know you're going to get flagged. You have to have discipline. But, like, I don't know. I have no problem with celebration as long as it's not disrespectful.
What's disrespectful? You know,
it's interpretation, and that's my problem. Watch, it's going to cost someone in a big playoff game, and that's when people are going to go crazy. There'll be a third down play. Someone makes a pass breakup, and they're in someone's face. They're going to throw a flag. It'll extend the drive. That team scores, wins the playoff game because of it. You need something drastic for it to really leave an imprint, and I hope that doesn't happen to my team.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. We had a question come in while we were gone, a very important question about the phrase, you can't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Squirrel Bob wants to know, why can't you, though? What else is going to hatch out of the egg? And I love that way of thinking about it, Squirrel Bob. Not that they won't hatch, but that, like, something else. The reason you're not counting your chickens is in case, like, a dragon bursts out of one of the eggs. You're like, oh, glad I didn't think that was a chicken. Like, thank goodness I didn't count my chickens, because there was actually a dragon in there.
There you go, dude. Tommy with my line of thinking, reptile, dude. Could be any sort of weird stuff in that egg.
Yo, watching snakes come out of eggs is one of the weirdest but most, like, satisfying, because they're like the soft shell where they just kind of, like, rip out of it, and, like, the membrane. It's weird, man. You ever watch videos of that? You ever look up snakes hatching?
Not on purpose.
It's the ordinary Thursday night for Simon.
I've seen it. I feel like every time I've seen that, which I have seen it, I didn't want to see it. It was part of some, like, Planet Earth or something, and it just kind of happened.
It's a recommended video on the Azerbaijan coffee shop video.
Yeah, it came up right after that. Now, I did go through a snake phase. I had a pet snake and got really into, like, reptiles and snakes. Would go to Repticons and stuff like that. I've had so many hobbies and things that I got super interested in. If you've never been to a Repticon, you gotta go. It is a wild experience. You walk in and there's just, like, reptiles you didn't even know existed. I saw a kid riding what looked like a Komodo dragon around the facility, like a child sitting on this lizard that was, like, 7 feet long's back. And I was like, what the hell is going on? It was a monitor. It was like a Nile monitor or something that was like a family pet. It was wild. Just riding it around.
So
Keith said, I think I can safely say no one went to Repticon.
What is it?
Yeah, you really didn't need that. Wasting your breath in the first part of that conversation.
You guys haven't been to Repticon. Yeah. What does it smell like at a Repticon? Imagine
exactly.
Not good, Bob.
Honestly,
not very good.
The people who go to Repticon, I think, smell worse than the reptiles at Repticon. Myself
whatever that
included.
Sawdust stuff.
I just imagine chilling in a big turtle cage with a bunch of dorks.
A giant life-size terrarium.
Not gonna lie, bro. Everything you just described sounds terrible.
Oh, it's the best. You got to go to it. Guys, joining us right now, we got our friend Vinny Iyer of Sporting News joining the show. You can find him on Twitter at Vinny Iyer, and you can find his NFL and fantasy football work over at sportingnews.com. Vinny, thanks so much for joining the show today, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me again, guys. Nothing big happened last night, did it?
Yeah, not a big thing at all. Vinny,
from the future.
I gotta gas you up immediately. That's what I'm doing right away. Because yesterday, 4:34 p.m., a tweet goes out from Vinny Iyer's Twitter account with an article that he wrote, right? Saying trade targets for every NFL team. Trade targets for every NFL team. The very first one in that article is Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers as a luxury move. And what happens later that night? Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. Vinny from half court with that shot right there. Vinny, did you have a feeling that was going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it was building for a little bit. And I think once the Rams got interested, the 49ers were like, we should probably get interested too. Like, we're not going to let them get this guy that could maybe change the fortunes of their season. We know that this NFC is up for grabs. I mean, I know the Eagles have looked really good, but when you see a matchup between the 49ers and Eagles, it'll be pretty even right now. I mean, they both have great defenses and maybe get that extra offensive element. The Eagles are loaded there, obviously, but the 49ers are right there with them. So I think those two teams right now, the way the Buccaneers are playing, the Rams, the Packers are playing, those two teams are now the favorites to win the NFC. So, I mean, the 49ers got a lot of good news with their injuries this week. So they're going to get everyone back at some point with Nick Bosa, maybe even suiting up again this week. So if they have their complete team, this is a hard team to beat. And this is looking really good for them going forward. And Chris McCaffrey, look, the biggest concern was staying healthy. He's been able to stay healthy this year completely, and maybe they're managing his reps a little bit better. I think the 49ers will be aware of that. They're not going to pound him into the ground. They don't need to. They got so much weaponry around him that it's going to help Debo not kind of get that same wear and tear. You're going to have Brandon Ayuk get even better matchups than he already has. And George Kittle, I think it's going to really wake him up a little bit because now you got to get defenses worried about McCaffrey with their linebackers and safeties. So this is a great move for the 49ers. I don't know how it's going to shake out for fantasy. Bottom line is we just want the 49ers to score more and run for more yards and catch more passes, and then everything will be fine. But they're going to have to really maybe ramp up this offense by maybe 50 yards per game and give us maybe 6 to 7 more points per game, and then we'll feel really good about it.
McCaffrey's a good step towards doing that, right?
Dude, you're being too humble right now. We were talking about the simulation earlier, and you're basically Morpheus. Like, you just came out yesterday, called this trade. You should just, forget all that, dude. Like, you should be. If I was you, I would be so obnoxious on Twitter right now. I'm being obnoxious for you. I just retweeted your thing. Your article. I'm like, dude, you didn't even retweet your own article. It says 15 hours ago with a picture of Christian McCaffrey. It says Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers in your article.
And he's like, I know what I'm about.
You didn't even retweet it yourself.
He's like, I know what I'm about, bro. I don't need no validation.
Honestly, I'm just too excited about it right now, like, because it actually came true, and that's great.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it was my dreams. Like, I went to bed. I'm like, did this really happen? And then I want to see what it's like. I mean, that 49ers Chiefs game, I don't care what they say about red zone packages for Christian McCaffrey. I think they're going to use him. I mean, it's a perfect game. And speaking of fantasy, I mean, this is a team that's allowed the most receiving yards per game to running back, 65, the Chiefs. So do you think they wanted to pick him up before this game? I think they did.
I think so. I think so. I'm with you, Vinny. Like, if I've got Christian McCaffrey, I don't care what they're saying. Like, they're playing the Chiefs. I mean,
he was on the fastest flight to San Francisco. Like, he was probably on that flight when I wrote that article. he was probably in midair. Like, he's probably reading the article and saying, "Oh, I'm going to San Francisco. Yeah, I'm going there right now." I don't even know.
Who told him?
Yeah, did he see me at the airport or something? Like, I'm out the door as quickly as possible. Like, get me away from Ben McAdoo. I want a one-way ticket to Kyle Shanahan as quickly as possible. Get out of this dumpster fire. Now he's going to be on a Super Bowl contender. I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, it's
awesome.
also
it's awesome for McCaffrey. I'm happy for him, and he's going back to where he went to school, right? Like, he's in the same area where he attended college. He's closer to where he grew up as well. Like, it seems like overall, like, he's probably freaking thrilled with this. Like, he's probably so happy.
I think they shared that story I think it was during the Panthers 49ers game that you probably didn't see because, again, we had to watch it on local TV. But here they talked about how Kyle Shanahan once babysat Christian McCaffrey, and he hated it.
Wait, who's he? Which one hated it?
The Kyle Shanahan. because he just couldn't.
Like,
he just couldn't. He was like Mike was like my wide receiver needs his son watched or his daughter watched, and they just drove him nuts, and he said never again.
Let me watch
That's
Mrs.
awesome.
Doubtfire. For the
Did you guys? When I used to have we had our regular babysitter who I didn't mess with. Know what I mean? Like she meant business. I respected her. Like when she came in, I was well behaved. But when there was a sub, when she wasn't available, and there was a babysitter who'd never been over before, oh, we tested them. Know what I mean? Like we would push our limits. Like I'd be on the roof with a bed sheet saying I was going to parachute off while my 4-year-old little sister's like running away. And they have to pick. Do I chase the 4-year-old? Do I grab the 6-year-old off the roof? And that's what I'm imagining Christian McCaffrey doing to Kyle Shanahan. Like of course that's what he's doing. You get this like young guy coming in babysitting. He's not usually in there. And Christian McCaffrey's just like, oh, I'm going to get him. Like this guy is toast. It'll be funny to see that dynamic though. Now, I know we've talked some of the fantasy implications. We were talking a little bit about how much the 49ers gave up. So a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round pick this year, plus a 5th round pick next year is not nothing. It's quite a bit to give up. Vinny, do you think this was a good move for the 49ers from like the amount they gave up? Like, is it worth it to them?
Well, I think it is because he's going to be under contract for multiple years. I know, look, he's had some volume here, so I think maybe you're getting 3 years max of him at this level here, but they'll probably be judicious with his usage to get the most out of him here. And he's a guy that in general, I know he's had the injury history, but takes care of himself really well here. And I think the biggest thing they're also looking at is not just for this year, but how are we going to help Trey Lance? I mean, think about that backfield next year when you're trying to read the backfield and you're not sure if Lance or McCaffrey is going to touch the ball. I mean, that's insane. And you also have a check down guy. So I think as much as they were thinking about, okay, let's add him to this offense with Jimmy Garoppolo, they were like, let's add this guy for multiple years. And people made a great point. They've thrown away picks on running backs, multiple picks, right? Elijah Mitchell gets hurt. They've used a pick on Tyrion Davis-Price. They've used a pick on Trey Sermon. They basically traded all those picks that they would have done in the future on random running backs. They said, we don't want to be tempted. We're going to push all these picks away. We've got it running. And they have 5 picks still, which is insane. Like when you move that many picks in a year, and I think they also realized that. I think they had 2 third-round compensatory picks. They said, we're fine with that. Get them out of here. So I really think I think we make a big deal about draft capital, but we don't go back and see what did teams actually do with that, because the 49ers are going to do more with maybe 2 third-rounders and a 5th and a 7th, and what they have left than what the Panthers are probably going to do is what they have right now. So just think about that. I mean, so they're confident in their draft history. You look at their safety. I mean, Talanoa Hufanga, he was a 5th round pick. George Kittle was a 5th round pick. They can find guys later in the draft. Fred Warner, those type of players have been foundational pieces for this team. So they're not worried about the draft picks. And we didn't get on the Rams last year. I know it's great for the Lions. They got 2 first rounders next year too, but the Rams won a Super Bowl. I think it balances out.
I'm not giving them credit for George Kittle. I'm sorry, dude. They drafted CJ Beathard in the 3rd round, and then they went and took his tight end from college, and it happened to be George Kittle. They don't get credit. They don't get credit for that in my book.
That's fair. But they did draft CJ Beathard, which was the gateway.
The gateway, yeah, that was a backdoor. That was a backdoor.
CJ Beathard leads to George Kittle. Be careful, drafting CJ Beathard. You might end up with the George Kittle on your team.
Yeah, I will say one thing I do love about this is that Dave Tepper over there got rid of the grass that the Panthers play on because they got a soccer team, installed turf. Christian McCaffrey didn't miss a game for 3 years. Last couple years he's been missing games. Now he gets to play on the sweet Bermuda grass over at the Field of Jeans over there. So, we know we've been seeing Levi Stadium. We've been seeing a lot of injuries and a lot of people quoting, numbers about, 25% more injuries on turf. Let's keep Christian McCaffrey somewhere nice and safe. So I do like that. That's an improvement in my opinion. At least half the games,
he's nice and safe away from. Go ahead. Good. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you say that, but the 49ers have been one of the most injury-ridden teams over the last 3-4 years, I feel like.
Sure.
Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Shanahan system being a little putting players in situations where they get hurt more. I don't know if it's a strength and conditioning issue, but I know the grass is maybe helpful, but the 49ers organization, maybe it's just a curse. Maybe I'm looking too much into the analytics and there's just something spooky going on.
Probably a spooky curse.
Yeah.
We got some people in the chat. I saw some Tyson asked this earlier, and we didn't get to it. And I see some other people asking some similar questions. We got Nick in here asking, with CMC going over to the Niners, how does this impact Jimmy G's value? Where will DJ Moore be traded to? Skip the DJ Moore part. And the other question we got from Tyson and Squirrelbob now is, how does this impact Debo? So I'm curious from you guys, like, how does this impact all of the players in that offense? Not just the Elijah Mitchells, but how is this going to affect Jimmy G, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle? We talked about Kittle a little earlier.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch how they distribute the ball. I think at the heart of what they want to do, they want to run the ball and be successful and play defense. So it really comes down to maybe some of the game scripts and the way that things are going to play out for them from week to week. We didn't expect them to have a negative game script against the Falcons, but it worked out for Jimmy G, and he put up a nice game last week, got all three receivers some pretty good numbers there in Atlanta. But you figure a game like Kansas City is going to be a negative game script. Watch this be a positive game script, and they go up like 28-0, and Jimmy G doesn't throw. But that's what you have to do. You have to kind of figure that out from week to week. But the weapons are just too good here. I don't see Jimmy G always needing to push for 35, 40 attempts. That's not going to happen. He's not going to need to do that in a lot of games. It's really going to come down to the touchdowns. Can you get the 250 and 2 from Jimmy Garoppolo? That's what you have to weigh in a certain week. And you can always get that from him. It just, are they going to be so dependent on McCaffrey in the red zone where those touchdowns come down a little bit? So George Kittle has already been really disappointing. He's only had really one big game last week, and that was because they were throwing to him in garbage time against the Falcons. So I know George Kittle is still a startable tight end, but can't get excited about it. He's not a guy that scores a lot. This actually might help Debo because they're not going to give him those touches where he could get hurt. They're going to get him involved in the passing game without having to wear him down in the running game. Then Brandon Ayuk has just been the sneaky guy, like, cover everyone else, I'll be wide open, walk into the end zone. We've seen that 3 times in recent games. So I think they're about the same with their fantasy value, to be honest, overall. I think it helps everyone stay healthy a little bit more where you're not forcing all of them into traffic. And again, as I mentioned, this team is probably going to score more points and get more yards. And when you have more points and more yards, I mean, the bigger pie you have, it can be split. So that's what we're always weighing in fantasy football. Smaller pie, fewer people, much larger pie, a lot of people. And that's what we're always weighing here to find out our fantasy scoring.
I'll say one thing I do like about this team for consolidating things, right, is that you have 11 guys in the field, right? This team you'll have 5 linemen, quarterback is 6, right? And then you have Kyle Juszczyk, who plays like 60% of the snaps. So that's 7, which means you're going to have Debo, 8, Ayuk, 9, Kittle, 10, McCaffrey, 11. You don't have to worry about a Tyler Boyd or somebody coming in and playing a 90%, 80% snap share and kind of siphoning off these targets. Kyle Juszczyk, like, the fact that he takes so many of those targets is what allows us to have a game like we had the week before this, where Ayuk, Debo, Kittle all got 10 targets. So, let's just be thankful that they do that they use second blocking tight ends, that they use fullbacks so that we can have a highly consolidated offense, because some teams, they either use just way too many different players, or when you have 3 wide receivers and a tight end and a running back, now there's 5 guys. And that's what you see in like the Bengals, where it's hard to trust Hayden Hurst. It's hard to trust Tyler Boyd. So the Kyle Juszczyk phenomenon in this case, I like it.
Yeah, it makes it clear. It makes it a little bit more clear. You look at like the Giants, you look at those box scores, and it's like everyone gets 4 targets. 4 targets for you, 4 targets for you. And there's like 9 players with 4 targets apiece, and you can't start any of them. I'm with you. Yeah. And Vinny, I think you're right. Like, this probably doesn't impact their fantasy value all that much. I am curious, does this bump Christian McCaffrey up for you? Like, does he get bumped up a notch, or is this a lateral move for him as well? Or does he go down?
Yeah, his numbers have been pretty good. We've seen this season. I mean, he's surprised a lot of people. He's trying to justify all the people that had him on the board over Jonathan Taylor, which is working out right now, but there's still a lot of season left here. And you look at the way things are going. And look, we made a lot of assumptions early about Nick Chubb and Amon Rossey Brown and Christian Kirk and all these other players that went off early. It is a long season. Things can change here pretty easily. But it definitely gives them more upside. I think the touchdowns weren't coming anyway, right? I mean, they weren't in a lot of scoring positions. in Carolina. They're going to be in several positions to score in San Francisco. So you'll get a few more touchdowns for sure. I think maybe the one thing that'll drop a little bit actually is the receiving yardage, because you look at the Kyle Shanahan offense. You talked about Juszczyk. He catches a few passes here and there. Maybe they'll adjust a little bit to get him involved. Where I think maybe next year is where you see the McCaffrey real boom, where you might want to take him higher, because then they'll have a good half season with him. You'll have that Trey Lance issue where he's going to check down more as a younger quarterback. They'll probably incorporate that into his game plan a little bit more next year. Things change. So I think right now this Garoppolo offense, I think the rushing upside goes way up for McCaffrey. The scoring upside also way up. But the receiving curbs a little bit, but I think we'll be fine with that if we can get a few touchdowns to make up for those lost receptions.
Makes sense. I think that makes sense. We had a question in here I wanted to get to. Eric coming in, switching gears a little bit, said, I'm hoping to drop Elijah Moore, sadly. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that earlier. It's looking rough for him, not so happy. But he wants us to pick one that he would pick up instead. Donovan Peoples-Jones or Garrett Wilson. Vinny, would you be picking up one of those two players, or would you be keeping Elijah Moore in this instance?
Yeah, it's hard to say I'm going to swap out Elijah Moore for Garrett Wilson. I mean, he's struggling through the same issue right now that you just want to go there. Donovan Peoples-Jones is kind of week to week. It's like when Amari Cooper gets shut down and the tight end matchup is not all that great, and then you have Donovan Peoples-Jones do something. So that's a tough one to me. It's neither are great options here. I might, just for the sake of maybe Deshaun Watson, I mean, that return is not too far away now. Maybe go DPJ a little bit. And I just don't want to be attached. I think if you swap Moore for Wilson, what are you doing? You're still in the Jets offense at this point.
When you said do something there, I just pictured the meme where the guy's poking it with a stick. Is that what you were getting at DPJ?
Yeah. I do something. Do something,
dude. Please.
Come on.
You? Like 11 how are you going to get 11 targets and not give us something back?
Yeah, I just don't like that passing game. I think it's trending downward quickly. I think this game against the Ravens, I mean, it's probably going to hit a wall here. I mean, the Ravens secondary is playing better. They're not blitzing as much. They're going to make Jacoby Brissett miserable this game. So they're hitting the wall. They're realizing, oh, yeah, we need Deshaun Watson. I knew that was going to happen at some point. They were going to be okay early, but now their passing game is dead. And if people are realizing, just stop Nick Chubb and we're fine, because Kareem Hunt's not even getting key touches here.
No. Hey, you know what? If your team is looking pretty good, DPJ could be a stash for when Deshaun Watson gets back. We don't know what that'll look like. I know we've seen him gas up guys that have played in a similar role, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller with Deshaun Watson. If that's the role that DPJ is going to have, which I believe he is that kind of guy, like the high A-dot outside field stretcher guy. You never know. Maybe he does a little Will Fuller stuff.
Maybe. Vinny, I wanted to ask you, you had another article come out this past week talking about coaches on the hot seat. And one of the coaches that you put on that list, Cliff Kingsbury, I think I was thinking the same thing. He's on the hot seat. He needs to turn things around. Do you think yesterday's game made a big impact on like how hot his seat is, or does he need to win a couple more, keep this continued success up?
Well, I think when you finish 11-6 in the season, I think the expectations are going to be higher. I feel like they feel that, especially with Kyler Murray getting the big contract as well. So part of it is on Kyler, and we had the blow up last night on the sidelines that they were both trying to kind of pour water on to say it wasn't a big deal. We were just angry. But you look at it, I mean, if you look deep into the game, I mean, they kept it simple, right? They threw a lot to DeAndre Hopkins. They ran the ball with Benjamin and Keontae Ingram for the most part, but they also got 2 defensive touchdowns. So we don't know how this game would have gone differently had they not had that 28-14 lead at halftime. It's almost like they sat on it and just had a few drives late that helped them put it away. But it's not like they impressed overall. Like that score will tell you, oh, the Cardinals offense was humming, but no, you get 2 defensive touchdowns here early, and they were also fortunate to get that red zone interception. Otherwise, they lose that game because they didn't have enough offense. I mean, their defense was getting destroyed when they weren't making the big plays. It was a weird game. I've never seen a defense suck so much and also make plays like that at the same time. But that's what happened. I mean, that's what the Cardinals kind of are. So I love that Marco Wilson play where he was diving in and we see Andy Dalton walking away. It's so good. It's like the whole season in a nutshell here. Quarterback.
We were talking about how
away,
beautiful that picture was. It's like it's a true work of art. JL, I think, tweeted about it last night. Just gorgeous that someone captured that shot.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton terrible in primetime. It continues here. I mean, he just doesn't win.
I feel
He's 6 and 19 now.
Sometimes I like avoid narratives. I'm like stay away from the narratives, but that's one that I avoid, and I'm like, I feel so stupid for avoiding that narrative. Like, he's done nothing to show us that he can do that. Truly, wasn't he like 0-11 in primetime games going into this? Like, he's never won a primetime game or
he was actually
something ridiculous like that.
He's 6 and 19. I think the last 6 he'd been blown out, and they'd not covered. His team had not covered by far. So just don't put him out at night. Just hide him beside him. He's like he's kind of like a reverse werewolf. Just don't put him out at night.
Do you think this is the last game we see with Andy Dalton under center here for the Saints? Is Jameis Winston back next week?
I'm not sure. Can anyone tell me what the Saints offense is exactly? It's throw to Chris Olave. Let's get Rashid Shaheed involved and Taysom Hill and throw a little bit to Juwan Johnson. Figure out who else is involved here on a week-to-week basis. I don't know what the Saints offense are. Are they a downfield passing game? Is that what they want to be? Do they want to be this run-heavy team? I don't know what they want. So I don't know who fits that better. And it's kind of interesting. People made the joke that when Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry are not there, that Jameis Winston kind of checks out, doesn't want to be a part of it. They don't want to put him out there when he doesn't have the wide receivers. So that's interesting that Andy Dalton is going to play as long as they don't have wide receiver depth, which is an odd thing. But I think they know that they can mess around with Taysom Hill a little bit more if Jameis Winston's not in there.
Yeah, maybe
loading, making your wide receivers Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas, and then being like disappointed when they get hurt is like that. There's like that meme where the guy sticks the stick in his own spokes of his bicycle, and then he complains when he falls on the ground. Like, if you're gonna make those guys your wide receivers, you're not allowed to complain when they both get hurt. Like, I mean, neither one of those guys has played a full season in 3 years at this point, right?
I feel like they're just the older versions of Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney. Pretty much are.
Ouch.
Vinny,
they're always hurt. You don't know when they're coming back. No one has any update on.
We don't really even care either.
No, we don't even care. Like, we just moved on. Like, we'll find some other fancy toys like Wandale Robinson and Chris Olave. We're good. You guys can go away.
We're good. Vinny, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk with us this morning. And mega props again to Vinny for calling that CMC trade. Guys, make sure you go follow him on Twitter at Vinny Iyer. And check out his work over on sportingnews.com. Vinny, always a treat talking with you, my man. And I'll see you next week.
Appreciate you, Vinny.
Yeah, I'll pick the Padres to win the World Series. There you go.
There we go.
That's my next prediction.
There it is, dude.
Right.
God, take it to the bank, Padres to win the World Series. That's a good dude right there. Before we jump on to the next thing, we had one question from Mark in here that I wanted to get to. Mark said, should I trade away Debo with the CMC trade? I could probably get someone like Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown. JL, are you trying to move Debo because of this for Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown?
Debo for Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown, I'm okay making that trade, but it feels
not because of CMC.
Lateral. Yeah, no, it's not because of CMC. I would have made this trade before CMC.
What about you?
Yeah, Debo if you're scared of Debo, I mean, A.J. Brown it is a lateral trade. Amon-Ra, not quite for me.
Yeah, you can make the argument that Amon-Ra, I don't think he's that big of a step down, but you can make that argument more than A.J. Brown for sure.
He's just like slower, smaller, worse Debo on a worse team.
Worse offense, yeah.
As we have a lot more coming up, we're going to break down some of these Sunday games. Then we've got Randy Santel, competitive eater, joining the show a little bit later today as well. Right now, you're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Call, chat, and enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Bettor Sports Network. Moose and Keith.
Because I never asked you this. When Noah was growing up, when did Noah first where you got a sense that this is what my son wanted to do?
I was really busy during his formative years. I didn't meet Noah until he was about 19.
Nice. So, your wife did a good job.
Yeah, you may want to talk to your wife. I would say about 13, he started showing a legitimate interest. He started getting curious about how I prepared, what it required. And then I saw a little bit of a shift, 14, 15, where he was concentrating on the on cameras, the interaction between play-by-play and analyst, and started probably taking mental notes at that point of the performance aspect of, okay, you do all this prep, but you got to go out and deliver it. So yeah, probably that 14, 15 range, I thought to myself, this could be something he really wants to do.
Front Yard Fantasy, weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network.
You don't need to be like right 100% of the time.
No, there was a tweet about the refs that had me kind of cracking up the other day because somebody was like, we have the technology to track the ball down to a centimeter and figure out what speed these guys are running on the field. Yet somehow we still mark the ball by
That's my favorite.
a 60-year-old dude eyeballing it, and then we run over with literal chains and measure it. It's like, you think we could probably get that figured out.
The least precise way to measure something, and then immediately following that up with a super precise way of measuring something.
Yeah, it's like we have
satellite. Like if you're a millimeter short of that chain that they bring out there, that they ran out it as best they could in a straight line. But if you first they just go here, and then they grab the chains and they run in the straightest line possible. But then if you are 1 millimeter short with that football, it doesn't count. Sorry, couldn't have been human error. You're just short.
That's exactly. And they bring out the index card or whatever. Meanwhile, they have satellites in space tracking how fast Brandon Ayuk ran on an end around. But we can't.
And I can see that number live while he's doing it. Like I can see every player's speed on the screen live.
I love that. It's and not to mention that dude's trying to make the spot, and the player always tosses the ball right into his face. Right, he's coming over to spot it, and it's every other time the player's just here you go. Here's another thing to juggle.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Is it me, Ray, or is the only publicity that Microsoft Surface has gotten out of their whole thing on the sideline is people throwing them to the ground in anger? Is that just a me thing? Or the only time I hear about this device, Ray, is when somebody is chucking it on the ground, just pissed off at it. Which I get it. All of us are in that world. We love to do that. Only in the NFL, Ray, can they get away with it because these are free. There's no cost. It's part of the sponsorship. Here's 5,000 Microsoft tablets to get you through the NFL season. And these players, Ray, just slamming them down. It's like they've become Dilbert on the sideline, and they're so frustrated. They're just the only publicity this company and this product has gotten is negative.
Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. And JL, you want to know what I just learned?
What's that?
I'm at worst the second fastest pooper on this stream.
At worst, the second fastest. What the heck does that mean?
You may be fast, or I could be first fastest. I might be number one. You and I didn't just race, but Coop and I were just having a race, and I beat him.
Oh, I see.
So at worst, I'm not the slowest pooper on this team, is what I'm saying.
Can we judge that your overall prowess as a pooper, your speed as a pooper based off of just one observation though?
Yeah, small sample size. It's like me extrapolating Wan'Dale Robinson's game to mean he's going to be a fantasy star rest of season.
I think we need to start doing this where we start doing races on breaks when two of us have to go, and then we'll keep track of who wins so that we can
see my mom in the chat. Simon, do not talk about poop on the radio.
Oh, Mama Grunewald. Oh my, I have bad news for you.
Coop, I'm sure you got some updates for us, but I can't hear them, unfortunately.
I was just checking in. You guys doing poop talk?
Well, what we were saying is I'm faster than you. I beat you.
Well, dude, I got an injured toe, right?
That is true. You know what?
That does affect pooping.
It could have been the waist.
It could have been on the IR today, honestly.
I would be moving faster, but my toe hurts.
Yeah. So.
Work and grind in here had a question for us. One that I'm struggling with quite a bit. So if you guys could help me out, I drafted a lot of Elijah Mitchell. Like he seemed free in drafts, got injured. I was excited for him to come back. Now they signed Christian McCaffrey. Can you drop Elijah Mitchell? Should you drop Elijah Mitchell?
I think it's a bad idea at this point. Like, I just think it's like let's just logic this out. If you drop Elijah Mitchell, what are you gaining by doing that? Right? What's
roster spot?
A roster spot. Cool. Who are you gonna fill with that roster spot?
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Cool. Is Rondo? So taking out just who you're gonna fill with it, like you have to take that into account, but then also you have to consider like right now it seems like Elijah Mitchell's value's toast, right? Oh, CMC's so good, or the usage. It's either that's going to happen, in which case you can probably drop him in a week or two, or you can hold him in which case, in the case that his value does go up, he is used in different ways than we expect, or that isn't the outcome that we're all, that narrative doesn't come true, then you still have value and you didn't just drop at the lowest value because you panicked.
Man, it's Christian McCaffrey though. Know what I mean? Like in my mind, the only route to like start, not that he couldn't have a role in this offense. Exactly. Elijah Mitchell could have a role in this offense, but I don't think it's going to be a fantasy relevant one without an injury to Christian McCaffrey. It's Christian McCaffrey. Like if they traded that much to do a split backfield with Elijah Mitchell, then I don't know what's going on with the 49ers. Like they traded this for Christian McCaffrey to be the guy.
I got it for you guys. I know that hot takes are more fun. I'm a big fan of hot takes, AOA, but I will say this. The easiest way to deal with it is if you have an IR spot that you can keep Elijah Mitchell in, leave him in there. If you have like crazy deep benches where there's nobody on waiver, hold on to him. If there's anybody on waivers that could help your team during the next couple of weeks, during bye weeks, there's no reason to hold Elijah Mitchell. By the time Elijah Mitchell gets back, Christian McCaffrey is going to know the entire playbook. He's a smart player.
You're sitting there kind of like not in the middle, but kind of putting together the two strategies. Like you're fine dropping him. You're not rushing to drop him. But if there's a guy on the waiver wire that you need or actually will help your team, you're totally fine doing.
And if you have an IR spot, I mean, it's like unless you need that IR spot for someone else, leave him in there. There's no reason to go into your IR spot and click drop, just spike drop him. So from JL's point of view, like there's no reason to go out of your way just to get rid of him. If you need that IR spot or if there's someone to add, then do it. But otherwise, there's no reason why not just see what it looks like.
Yeah. Swansea Sea Snakes asking Debo value up or down now. I think relatively the same. Maybe a slight uptick, slight bump up, but
it creates an opportunity for his value to go up. But it's based off narrative, right? We're guessing how CMC might affect his availability in the office and the coverage. That's impossible to know without it happening. Us getting some data and seeing how that works out. But like, there's a pretty strong narrative to make a case for that.
Yeah, and people got to remember that the way it works in the NFL and the reason people say targets are earned is that these teams are just trying to call plays that work, right? It's not just because CMC's there doing end arounds with Deebo Samuel it's not like that doesn't work anymore. It still works.
Yeah.
So I think they're still going to do that. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to just stop doing it because they have CMC. They're going to hand CMC the ball. It crushes Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell. But I think the rest of the guys, they're going to be on the field for their full snap share. And that's a play that works. So they're still going to call it every once in a while. So I think he's going to be just fine. I mean, you were with Deebo, you were basically hoping he, gets 1 or 2 carries a week. And I think that's still absolutely within the realm of possibility.
Let's do some name game real quick because we got some questions in the chat that are setting that up for us. Would you drop Elijah Mitchell for Chase Edmonds?
No.
Chase Edmonds.
Would you drop Elijah?
What's the upside? Like why?
Yeah,
what's the upside there?
I'm with you guys. I'm not making that move. Elijah Mitchell for Tyler Algier.
Yes.
So that's a move you would make.
Absolutely.
That one I'm not as sure on. My initial gut move feels like they're pretty close in value.
I think I'd go Algier. At least I could start Algier for the next couple of
weeks.
Algier
got 15 carries this week.
There's no way Mitchell gets 15 carries, right? Like when CMC's healthy and in this offense, like that's what I think I go Algier.
Algier the last 3 weeks, 10 carries, 13 carries, 15 carries. I'll tell you what, if you think that Elijah Mitchell gets 10 to 15 carries when CMC is back, then you should absolutely downgrade Debo and everybody because that team's going to be running the ball how many times? If he's getting 15 and McCaffrey's getting 20, I mean, how many times is that team running the ball every week? Quite a few.
When's Cordero Patterson back?
He's got at least a couple other weeks, if I remember correctly. He was put on IR, 3 weeks ago? So it's a minimum one more, if I remember correctly. I can pull that up, though, but I think he's out for at least one more, and they're expecting him to be out.
You're dropping an injured player you can't use for a player that you can use right now.
Yeah, there's a strategy. I mean, you can use Tyler Algier, probably not helping you a ton. 4.5 points, 5.1 points. He just hasn't really converted on it. But I agree with you. The opportunity short term is there. So
Algier's not
I'm
really
okay making that move. I think they're
balls.
similarly value though.
Algier does kind
We
of
got
PPR.
We got my cousin in here. What's up, Matt? He says Jimmy G or Jacoby. So this week, would you be throwing Jimmy G out there? Jacoby Brissett. Coop, which of those two quarterbacks are you plugging in your lineup?
Kobe's got the Baltimore Ravens.
I think I would start Jacoby. Ravens can't really stop anything, even though I'm still mad at Jacoby for getting me negative points in the Scott Fish Bowl. I would still start Jacoby. I don't know. What do you guys think?
This Ravens defense, like the secondary looked better last week. I don't think the numbers, if you look at like the fantasy points given up to quarterbacks and wide receivers, are indicative of how good this Ravens defense actually is. I like the matchup against the Chiefs. I think it's going to be a fun game. I'll start Jimmy G. I'm throwing Jimmy G in there.
Yeah, I'll go Jimmy G as well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, 2 touchdowns last 2 games. I'll jump on the ship with you. Get Jim Jam Galapagos in there.
Jam Galapagos. Also, Keith coming in with
never not saying his name any other way again.
That's saying the 49ers have averaged 28 rushing attempts per game. Do you think it's possible Elijah Mitchell gets 10 rushes to keep CMC fresh? Like we see CMC in that 15 to 20 range and Elijah Mitchell in that 10 touch range?
I could see in the short term, like on the just think about this from their perspective. Imagine you're Kyle Shanahan and you have CMC. They're going to try and work him in like as much as they can, but there are also going to be points in the game where they can't fit Christian McCaffrey into it because of whatever reason. It's complicated, right? Elijah Mitchell might know the playbook better. He might understand the schemes and situation better. And so I think they'll still use him in that situation, those players in that situation, but you can't discount the fact that CMC is CMC and they're going to keep trying to get him more ingratiated into this offense so that he'll take over that spot.
Man, and even if that's what we're holding out for, like a 10 touch Elijah Mitchell, what does that make him if he's only getting 10 touches? An RB3? Like what is a 10 touch Elijah Mitchell in this offense? Like
with this offense with CMC, it's more valuable than it has been in the last season or two, right? Because all of a sudden this offense is gonna be moving more. So those 10 opportunities might be close to the red zone, might be better opportunities for Jeff Wilson, where it's not just him having to push the ball down the field, being the only running option.
Also, Scott Fish in here with a great stat backing up what we were saying about that Ravens defense, saying, Simon, Tua going 469 for 6 is going to alter that Ravens pass D rank a lot. Have only allowed 5 touchdowns and 246 pass yards per game outside of that. Yeah, 100%. When you look at the overall averages, especially when it's a limited number of games at the beginning of the season, that one big game is going to make things look a lot worse than they are for that Ravens defense.
Yeah, I mentioned this after Maria and I went Ravens Monday night game and it was right around the time I think Ravens defense secondary was considered the worst leading up to that, and brought up how they looked different. They looked like they were much better than they had been. They looked like it just wasn't the first 3 weeks wasn't gonna quite capture the right story, and Scott Fish nailed it. It's that Miami Dolphins game really does skew the numbers.
How much are they favored by in this game? The Ravens, they're favored by 6.5. Man, I think the Ravens are going to kill the Browns this week. Like I really think we're going to see the wheels start falling off this Browns team. I like the Ravens to cover. I really think the Browns aren't going to be able to get much going this weekend. 6.5 point favorites. I'm taking the Ravens 6.5 all day.
Typically, I don't think the Ravens are going to like we talk about Ravens will play to their competition, but it feels like this is one of the games where I think they'll be able to capitalize.
If you want to get into the narratives, though, we can get into the narratives. Joe Flacco threw for 300 yards against the Ravens. Mac Jones threw for 300 yards against the Ravens.
Don't get me wrong. They were bad in the first 3 weeks. It wasn't just the Dolphins situation.
Josh Allen.
They would play poorly.
Josh Allen only threw for 200 yards against the Ravens because it was a hurricane. Joe Burrow. Actually, they kind of held Joe Burrow to pretty good. Only 217 yards, 1 touchdown. And then, of course, Daniel Jones comes out, throws 2 touchdown passes against them. So I'm not necessarily buying that the Ravens are good. Maybe they're not as bad as they looked early on because of that Dolphins game. But, I mean, if Mac Jones is coming out and hanging 300 spots on you, then, I mean, the ball can be moved, I will say.
Yeah, no, there's no denying that the Ravens defense, their secondary is not very good in the first 3 weeks. They were not putting it together. I don't know what was missing. There was disconnect. Starting to feel like they're coming together, and
certainly not the best defense in the world, but they're going to start, they have some big names in that defense. So if it starts taking off, trending in that right direction, it's good.
Yeah.
And then sticking on this game a little bit, I was just curious what you guys are doing. So J.K. Dobbins, we're watching for his practice report today. Like that's something where we want to see if he's practicing. Coop, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but if we see a limited practice, an LP on that practice report today, are you comfortable plugging J.K. Dobbins in this weekend?
No. I look at that team, and if Mark Andrews is a limited participant and then he's a go, I'm playing him. But if J.K. Dobbins is, I'm not going there. It's just he took himself out of the game with knee tightness. I mean, that's a scary situation. I would rather I'll start Kenyon Drake if I have him, but I'm not starting J.K. Dobbins. It has to be dire straits for me to start J.K. Dobbins.
What about you, Joe? LP, limited participant. You plugging him in?
Yeah, it is a wait and see situation. The matchup is decent, but there's risks. There's risks with both of these guys. There's a chance that neither of them really provide much value, like just maybe like middling 5 to 7 points, something like that. So there's risk, but I'm willing to throw J.K. Dobbins in if the news is trending in the right direction by game time.
Give me the full P. Give me the FP, the full participant, and I'm in.
Give Coop that full P. You heard him, guys.
Not a half P.
Ain't no half P out here, dude. Ain't no half Peach. Peach Walker.
Peach Walker. Is that what Peach stands for?
You're just getting this now. That's why we were saying Peach for like 2
No,
weeks?
I got Peach Walker, but I didn't know it was a half P.
Oh, this time
P.
P is for participants in practice. So I need that full P to get J.K. Dobbins in the liney.
In the liney. We're just going to start making everything miserable to listen to. Like we shorten words that are unnecessary.
Now that the Panthers have traded Christian McCaffrey and are the worst team in the league, are you putting Peach in your liney?
We adopted straight up. For some reason, that's making me think of the Hockey Bros and Letterkenny and just how they're always talking and just like the most ridiculous phrases over and over again. We adopt full on Hockey Bro lingo and only talk through sports in that lens.
PPR guys, right?
PPR,
pairs,
full
right?
PPR.
Yeah.
Working grind in here. Hal letting us know about a tragedy of a team he drafted in his biggest league. Elijah Mitchell, Najee Harris, Keenan Allen. So glad he drafted this team in his biggest league. Yeah, that hurts a little bit. But hey, Najee Harris still startable. Keenan Allen is gonna come back and should be good going forward.
In my biggest league that I play in with Swansea Sea Snakes, I drafted Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, Keenan Allen, like DJ Chark. But this team is the walking wounded, bro. Like my first three picks were actually I did get Austin Eckler, who is awesome. But beyond that, man, rough sledding for the boy.
Pretty bad.
Boy. Rashad Bateman has been out. Like my boys are just taking their time.
Hallen, you're saying 2-4 and started Rondale Moore this week. Yeah, that's just a slap in the face. Like everything pointing towards you can start Rondale Moore. He's got over 10 PPR points the last 2 weeks, heavily involved in the offense. And then of course, when your 2-4 team starts him, he goes out there and just lays an egg on the field. And no one's counting his chickens from the eggs that he's laying. They're assuming there's no chickens inside those eggs. Not a single one. In this Cleveland Browns Baltimore Ravens game as well, I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Amari Cooper, the guy on the wall behind me. He's been showing up. Amari Cooper's been showing up recently. He's getting pretty heavily targeted in this offense. They're throwing the ball more than I thought they were going to. Coop, how are you looking at Amari Cooper rest of season? And is he full go ahead for this game? Like you plugging him in full confidence?
I look at Amari Cooper the same way I have for this entire time, is that he's a guy that I feel comfortable having in my lineup unless I have a bunch of studs. And then he's my next man up, like he's like in the Adam Thielen, Tyler, because we know that he's capable of big games and we know that he's capable of not showing up at all. Like he's the boom bust master, Amari Cooper is. So, 3 wide receiver leagues, love having him in there. 2 wide receiver leagues, feel a little dicey about it, because it is pretty ugly when he catches one pass for 6 yards. I don't know. What's your confidence level on Amari Cooper?
Mine's a little bit higher. I don't think he's as up and down if you go back and look at his game logs as people think he is. I think since he went to Dallas, since he left Las Vegas, he's been one of the more consistent wide receivers from a fantasy perspective in the NFL. And I wasn't expecting that this year. But we've had decent levels of consistency. And with Deshaun Watson coming back, like it's got to do nothing but improve his situation. So I think he's a back end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. That's a little bit more in the safe category than in that risky category.
Yeah. Just looking at this year so far, he's been a wide receiver 1 50% of the time, wide receiver 2 17% of the time, wide receiver 3 33% of the time. That's been with Jacoby Brissett. So Sean Watson's gonna be coming back later in the season, and he's a many levels of talent above Jacoby Brissett, and I think that Amari Cooper is the guy in this offense. So I'm with you, Simon. Wide receiver 1, back in wide receiver 1 upside for me. Most likely the middle wide receiver 2 or high wide receiver 2 is probably most likely outcome.
There we go. Guys, joining us right now, we've got a special guest. We've got Randy Santel, competitive eater, holder of the world record for most food challenges completed, coming on the show. And what's up, Randy? Thanks so much for joining us today, my man.
Hey, good morning. Happy it all worked out, and happy to be on the show with you guys.
Randy, happy to have you.
I am excited to talk to you. First and foremost, congratulations on that world record. That's incredible. And then I watch that and I think about like the clown on Man versus Food. He had to stop doing it. He couldn't stay healthy. You're still rolling through these challenges, absolutely killing it. You look like fit as an ox, man. Like you're ready to go to the gym and lift some weights right now. Even after beating all these challenges.
And we're pretty much, my girlfriend and I were both off for like the next 2 months to lose some weight and get ready for all the 2023 challenges. So yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, nice. It's like your off season. That's wild to think about. You're in the off season right now, prepping for the season.
We're going to be basically just doing a lot of exercise and not eating as much, of course, which sounds weird, but we're actually going for like 6 weeks to France and Italy, just on kind of a vacation to do a lot of sightseeing and walking, jogging around and all that, and not doing any food challenges. So it'll be nice because we did food challenges pretty much for most of the year. So it'll be nice to go a couple months without doing any at all.
That's great, man. Now, do you, as the record holder, do you kind of, do you ever look over your shoulder? Do you know who's even kind of creeping up on you, or
that's a good question because there's not really that many eaters that actually count their wins like I do. So I know there's some people. I don't think there's anybody over 1,000, but I think there's a couple people that are very high. They don't really count their number, and they've never I'm fortunate enough that my very first food challenge was videoed, and all my other food challenges other than one are videoed, and eventually they'll have videos on my YouTube channel. Really everybody else, not all their food challenges are videoed and counted and stuff like that. So I guess I'm the one that takes it most serious.
Coop's like sitting there right behind Randy, just hoping he won't see it. Sneakily trying to get into the competitive food eating.
Yeah, that was a huge question for me.
You're looking over your shoulder?
Randy, do you, what's the number right now? It's over 1,000, 1,112. I'm looking at your website right now. Is that number accurate?
I think I need to update my website.
I have no idea what stat you're talking about. So all I have is a number to go off of, and
food my
imagination's going wild.
Yeah, I've got the record for the most unique individual food challenge wins at different restaurants, and it's 1,135.
Hot damn! Of those 1,130,
that's in all 50 states and then 37 countries.
Holy cow! I'm curious. The thing I'm curious about is, of those 1,135, is there one that stands out in your memory as extra challenging or extra rewarding, or one that was like just an experience that you're not forgetting that stands above the rest?
I've got a favorite. I can't really ever say which one's the toughest because I think there's 30 challenges where I won within the last 3 seconds.
Wow.
And we're talking 45-minute, 1 hour time limits. So, it was down to the wire. Everybody was nervous. My favorite food challenge ever was on my 31st birthday in 2017. I was in Melbourne, Australia. 250 people came to watch me take on this 16 patty burger. It was over 6 pounds. It was called the Chainsaw Massacre burger at this burger shop. There were actually more people watching through the windows outside than the amount of people that could fit inside. And I was trying to beat this long-standing record. And I ended up beating it on my birthday with all those people watching and the news there and everything by 5 or 12 seconds. Yes. So it was a very cool experience.
That's a big day, dude. Did people go wild when you got it?
Yeah, it was pretty neat. Yeah,
that's
and then
cool,
I had a videographer to actually get it all on camera too. So it was neat.
Did you use those like last 5 to 12 seconds to just flex on your opponents there in the competition? Just like let out loud burp and blow it in their face or something?
When you do well, it's not an eating contest. So I know you guys said competitive eating at the beginning. I more so go by professional eater. It's pretty much like man versus food.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where you guys live, but I'm sure you know the that 4th of July hot dog contest that Joey Chestnut wins each year.
Yeah.
That's pretty much an eating contest where there's a whole bunch of people lined up to see who can eat the most hot dogs in 10 minutes. Mine is more like whether I can eat like a 6-pound burrito in 30 minutes or a 72-ounce steak or something like Adam Lynchman did on Man vs. Food.
So that's
I know exactly
thank you for clarifying that, because I never knew that the distinction between those two.
There's kind of two different realms. Yeah. And back in the day when I started, I've been doing it since 2010 in March. So over 12 and a half years now. Competitive eating was a lot bigger. And not as many people did food challenges. Not as many people had social media. And I just always focused on food challenges. A lot of the people did eating contests, but they trained their stomach capacity and stuff by doing food challenges, because really it's a great way to get free meals and stuff like that. But training for actual eating contests is a little bit different, just because I usually have like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour to eat a whole big meal. Where in an eating contest, usually it's 3, 5, 8, 10 minutes. 12 minutes is like basically the marathon for an eating contest.
Yeah.
So you've got to train your stomach a little bit different.
How do you train your stomach? Like that sounds like that's something just completely foreign to me. Like whenever you're trying to train your stomach, does it involve eating to train your stomach?
You treat your stomach muscle just like you would your biceps or your chest or your legs, any kind of like ones that you lift. In order to fit more in it, the goal is basically to get your stomach muscles to relax and expand more. So really, it's either food, water, which is definitely not safe if you don't know what you're doing, or I like to usually do food and water. But yeah, the goal is basically just in order to eat a lot, you've kind of got to train yourself to eat a lot. Now, I'm a bigger guy, so if I was like a skinnier person, I would probably just go to like Chinese buffets, pizza buffets, because those are always really fun to me. But I can't take in all those calories and do all the food challenges. So I'll usually go to like Subway. Well, really back in the day when I first started, I was trying to always eat as much watermelon as I could, just because that's got like the least sugar for the most amount of volume, and it was pretty cost effective as well. But I would try to eat like 12, 13 pounds of watermelon, basically until I was a few bites away from getting real sick. But now,
you mean like in a sitting, eat 12 to 13 pounds of watermelon?
That's crazy.
all in like 20 minutes.
That's incredible.
I did one.
That's awesome, man.
I did like the competitive. It was like a competitive that I know the difference. It was like 4th of July when I was a kid. Never done an eating contest before, or like eating contest like that before. And then I got up there and I'm like, I don't even like watermelon. And so I'm sitting up there, I'm a kid, and all these people are like going ham, and I'm like taking the balls. I'm like
picking away
the
at
kid
it,
in the
dude.
swim meet.
I will say that eating contests are more fun because usually the crowd is a lot more hyped. It's only like 10 minutes most that they've actually got to cheer. Food challenges, it's more relaxed until maybe the end or something like that, or else if you're at a bar where a lot of people are drinking. But yeah, eating contests can be real intense because I've done a few. It's been a long time, but they are fun just because everybody's just right in your ear cheering. Come on, come on.
But yours is more like art. It's like you're watching you perform your craft, right? It's like much more like individual versus like, okay, now I want to see which one of these guys can put more.
H dogs down. Hey, so I gotta ask them.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say along those lines. You said that you didn't like the watermelon, so we get so many questions about. I mean, I've done so many food challenges. Has there ever been one where I just hated the food? In reality, it happens quite a bit, and not just it's hardly ever the restaurant's fault because there's only a couple things I don't really like, and one of them is blue cheese. But when we're doing these videos, there's a whole lot of setup, especially if there's like a burger, there's fries, there's a milkshake, there's other sides, chicken wings. It takes a lot of time to get the video of all that. and make sure that it's all ready for my editors to do their thing with. But a lot of the times when I start my food challenges, just after all the setup, the food's a little bit cooled off. And if it's like a 6-pound platter that's going to take a while to eat, within like 30 minutes, all of it's cold. And then,
Gross.
I mean, if it's called flavor fatigue, and I guess the business, if you eat 5 pounds of your favorite food, you're going to not really enjoy the last pound like you did the first 2.
Right. So I can
pretty
say
much
from personal experience, I've done that before, where you just eat too much of one thing and you're just like
even on Thanksgiving. I mean, at the very end of it, you're just wanting to be done. You're not
every
really
Mexican and Indian restaurant I've ever been to.
Amen. Yes. Chinese buffets or whatever. Finally, I mean, when I'm at a Chinese buffet, it's always what I want in the beginning, and then at the end, it's like, oh, what can I still stomach or what can I still enjoy? Because I don't want that. I don't want that. I had too much of that. But yeah, when we're doing the food challenges, it's pretty much my big thing is diet soda. Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke, whatever dark soda they have, or else you can always use like ketchup and barbecue sauce and stuff that kind of overpowers the taste of the bland food that you're not really into. And then one of the big things with food challenges is if there is something that you don't like, eat it first, because that's when you're fresh and able to eat. Because if you don't like something, it's going to be a lot harder to eat after you've already eaten 5
I get that. Even
this just reminded me of with Simon and Clemson. We used to do Amazing Race. Like our fraternity, we used to play this game where you'd get like a giant, what was it, a case of beer,
24 beers, a 5-liter bag of wine, and a fifth of liquor. And you'd have a team of 5 people who had to take it down.
And what you just described of like, go after the thing you hate the worst.
Right. I started with the Franzia. we got that bagged wine down first because, man, after 10 beers, no way I was putting down a liter of wine. It just wasn't happening.
We started with the beers, which was the single biggest mistake and why we came in last place, because we got so full where we should have just started with the liquor and then gone to
whoever gets through the least of that and loses is actually kind of the winner.
Honestly, you
can resume your day, right?
We used to do beer Olympics in college, and it was like the one day that I looked forward to, but also did not look forward to because I knew what the end results were going to be.
You were going to be the anchor on that team, right?
I played college football, and I played with a lot of people that like to do what we're talking about. And, we always tried to keep up with each other, which was a terrible idea.
Yeah, dangerous
every
game.
time.
I gotta ask, since you've been all over, so I'm out in Massachusetts, up Boston way. Have you ever done any out this way? Do you remember anything you did out?
Yes, yeah. Actually, the Northeast is, I think, what I've neglected the most. But all my intentions and my plans were to. Well, no, my plans and intentions were to go there in like 2020, 2021, 2022.
That was
the Northeast was the most restricted. So I haven't been back there since 2015. But yeah, in Massachusetts, I went to Spike's Junkyard Dogs. Yeah. And then there was, it was on a newer season of Man vs. Food, but I went to breakfast challenge. It was like an Irish pub. Let me look it up. Randy Santel, Boston. But yeah, I've got wins in all 50 states.
Oh, so Simon's in San Antonio. I'm in Baltimore. Any of those?
Let's not talk about San Antonio. Boston,
we don't talk about that.
Plan O'Brien's. Do you know where that is?
Okay.
It's in the Mission Hill area of Boston.
Yep. Wow. I'm looking at this right now. That's a lot of food.
The reason I said that is because years ago I went down to Texas, and it's actually our #1 video on our YouTube channel and Facebook, I think, too. But I went to go do a food challenge at Lulu's in San Antonio.
Yeah,
that was on Man vs. Food. They're famous for their cinnamon roll. Well, they had a very viral chicken fried steak challenge that I wanted to do while I was in the area, and I called like twice. And they said, yeah, everything was going to be great. Bring everybody. We'd love to have you. And then when I got there on the day of, they basically said that I wasn't allowed to do any video or film. And everything just went to hell. And eventually they called the police on me and all like the 7 families that were there. And they kicked us all out.
I don't care if their cinnamon roll is 7 pounds and I love a cinnamon roll. I'm never going back to Lulu's again.
Well, you can't because they shut down.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Stuck in Lulu's.
I'm not going to attribute it to me and the video that
but I'm not gonna attribute
the
it.
video's got over 10 million views on YouTube. I haven't checked Facebook in a while, but for over a year, Lulu's wasn't able to use their Yelp page because I tagged it in my description of the YouTube channel.
Oh no!
And forever, Lulu said Lulu's is experiencing whatever it's called when a whole bunch of people go to leave negative reviews and stuff on your.
You might have single-handedly taken them down.
Let that be a lesson to you out there.
Yeah. The reason I said that I don't attribute it to myself is because it was already on the way down before I got there.
Probably not. It doesn't sound like they're making the best decisions.
But I mean, it's hard to have a restaurant these days.
Yeah.
People always ask me if I want to have a restaurant, and I very quickly tell them no. With all the raising costs, all the staffing issues, restaurant life is very difficult.
Yeah. Staffing's massive.
Absolutely.
Craig in the chat asking, Randy, if you had to choose a food challenge for these three to try and take on, what would you pick?
So, we can give you a little bit of information.
Amateurs.
I'm lactose intolerant and don't eat beef. Does that change anything?
And you don't eat beef?
Yeah, no beef over here.
Okay. Well, I mean, that makes it a lot harder because I know I've got a friend who, for religious reasons, can't eat pork. So we always have to account for him whenever we're doing food challenges. But obviously, there's a lot of beef burgers, and you can't do any steaks. But I mean, there's still, as long as you're not vegan, there's quite a few opportunities. Where you live in? Where does the other guy live?
I'm in Texas. He's in Baltimore, and then we got a Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh, Baltimore. Okay, Baltimore is actually where I'd love to get to because I've only done a challenge in Northeast Maryland, which is basically close to Philly, and then I did a thud challenge in Catonsville.
Yeah, I know Catonsville's right outside.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, Catonsville. Yep.
Yeah, the goal is to get there, but I don't really know too many food challenges there. I was actually just in Delaware just like a week ago. But
gotta be some crab food challenge over there, right? Some Old Bay.
Yeah.
Old
You
Bay
come to Baltimore, Randy. We'll meet up. I'll come out.
The problem with seafood challenges is they can get expensive quick.
Oh, true. Market price.
And Katina's my girlfriend, and she's a professional eater as well. We've been dating for 2 years, but we met in Alaska, and even then, we did like a 14-pound seafood challenge, all Alaskan seafood. If we would have lost, it would have been like $450. So like, not many people want to do. Basically, the more expensive a food challenge is, the less, I guess, appealing it's going to be for people. Because I mean,
the ROI.
With food challenges, I mean, the goal is to win. And so you're not enjoying it as much as you would be if you were taking your normal 27 chews a bite. But like lobster rolls. Are lobster rolls big there?
They're not as big. They're probably closer to Coop.
That's our neighborhood.
Yeah, we don't have
lobster.
Okay,
They're paying market price for those.
Yeah, you do a 5-pound lobster roll, and you better get out the credit card or make sure mom and dad are paying for it or something like that.
Yeah.
So do you and your girlfriend do challenges together regularly? Because I know there's a lot of duo challenges. Like I grew up near Kennesaw, Georgia, where they've got like the big pie in the sky carnivore challenge. And I've watched people try to tackle that one and fail every single time I've seen people try. But do you guys do those like duo challenges together?
Atlanta is one of the top spots for food challenges, or at least it used to be. There were so many. I've done so many all around the area.
I lived walking distance to the Vortex as well, where they've got that quadruple coronary bypass burger.
I was like, my buddy Nathan and I were the only winners of that challenge forever. It was quadruple bypass burger challenge. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, a couple people have won since then. But yeah, that big pie in the sky, that was a big one. My teammate and I, we did that in like 12 minutes, which was funny because the guy from Man vs. Food and his teammate lost. But the big thing with team food challenges is you got to have a partner. I mean, if you're doing a 12-pound pizzas are the most popular thing. If you're doing a 12-pound pizza and you can only eat 7 pounds and your partner can only eat 4, I mean, there's a math there, and it's going to be really hard for you guys. It's going to be really hard for you guys to win. So it's always nice when I'm eating with Katina because we're able to do bigger food challenges or have more of we're more likely to succeed. But we each have separate channels, and we don't want to force the other person onto all of our, I guess, social media following. Like there's some people that watch her, they don't like me. I don't think there's many because she's pretty. that watch me but don't like Katina. So we try not to be on too many of the other person's videos. And also too, if we're both doing the same challenge, we're both making a video of it. It's really about whoever posts the video first that's going to get the most views. Because if you've already watched it once, why do you really need to watch it the second time?
When you let her post, are you a gentleman? Are you a gentleman and let her post them?
Actually, that's one of our favorite stories for us both. Is that we met in Alaska? Which, how much time do we have here?
We're good. Yeah, we can
get this last one. Get this last one in.
Yeah. Okay.
This is more important.
Well, no, I just want to make sure I'm within the time.
Yeah,
But one of our favorite stories is I did a food challenge years ago with a really pretty girl named Kate Ovens in the United Kingdom. And she was a lot smaller than me. And we got her in the thumbnail because the thumbnail of the video is a big deal. And it had me in the video and her, and it shot up to like 1 million views really quick of us each eating this burrito challenge. So a restaurant in Nenana, Alaska contacted me wanting to do a team pizza challenge. It was like 10 pounds, and they said that they could provide a partner for me, but I knew that Nenana only has like 300 people there, and I didn't want to fly all that way, take their money and stuff like that and have a chance of losing. So I was trying to think of somebody I wanted to collaborate with, and Katina, she was living in Spokane, Washington at the time. I had never met up with her, and she had a channel for like 2 years, and she was just coming off a very recent viral video of her doing that 72-ounce steak challenge, the famous one in Amarillo. Yeah, she got like 2 million views of that real quick. So I had this idea. Did I think that I would spend like 10 days with her, traveling around Alaska and doing other food challenges as kind of like a mutual, respectful collaboration trip. But I knew that she was only 5'2". I'm 6'5", and so she was really pretty. I figured that is having her in like 5 food challenge videos would just like rake in some money of people clicking to see this pretty girl eat with this big guy. Well, what I didn't think about is after paying for her flights, paying for the rental car, she paid for some of the hotels, which was nice, and paid for all the gas and put all this money into it. Well, she, in order to maintain her weight, does a lot fewer food challenges like in a row. So like I had a big backlog where it was going to be a little bit till my videos all posted. Well, all 4 of her videos of our 5 that we filmed all posted before mine. And so she raked in the views on like all of them. Like I think two or three of the videos have over 1 million views. Meanwhile, they all watched those, and mine are in like the 200s, 300s, which are still good, but nothing like
cleaned up.
Nothing like I was hoping for.
Folks in the chat, get in there on Randy's YouTube. Watch some of those Alaska videos. Come on, let's get this man. Get this man pumped up. Yeah, get the Alaska ones pumped up. Come on, let's go.
Let's make a push. Yeah,
we got you, Randy. We got you.
But no, we've been dating since pretty much 5 days into that trip. So
that's such a great
story.
What
a cool story.
I lost in the short term, but I won in the long term.
Oh, make sure she watches this right here because that's some brownie points in there.
She's upstairs editing her video, and I have a pretty loud voice, so I'm pretty.
Randy,
she knows you're an angel.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come.
We live together now in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'm really lucky to have her because I'm becoming a dietitian. I don't know if you guys know that. So my end goal. Do you know what dietitians are?
Yeah, my mom was one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, nutrition specialist. Yeah. It's basically my end goal is to do all these food challenges. Meanwhile, since 2016, I started school in dietetics back where I got my original construction management degree at Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri. But I'm like a year or 2 away from finally retiring from all these food challenges. And then I'm going to take over and transition all my social media to being a social media dietitian where I help people better understand fundamental nutrition and weight management and stuff like that. And it goes well with Katina because she in Spokane has a degree in kinesiology or sports science and movement from Gonzaga. I think I said that right. But in order to become a dietitian, you've got to do an internship and you have to be accepted. It's a pretty competitive thing. So I applied to like 4 different ones and got accepted to Mount Mary University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she agreed to move with me. And she's not a huge fan of the cold. which is funny because she's from Spokane, Washington, but she would much rather be in Texas or Florida or whatever. But she agreed to move with me so that I can do this 1,200-hour internship in the very cold. Let's just say Wisconsin's cold, if you didn't know that already.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, though. That's pretty awesome of her. Randy, thank you so much for taking the time to come up and hang out with us today. Give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, what you're doing. Everybody watching, go check out Randy, randysantel.com. The links to all of his social media are on there as well. And he's got a full list of all of the challenges that he's done. You can scroll through them, see if there's any near you, interactive map and everything. Randy, it's been an absolute treat talking to you, my man. And good luck on the upcoming season.
I will stop you right there just so there's no confusion. Randy Santel is mostly about me. I'm also the owner of foodchallenges.com, which also has an interactive map, but that would be the one where we have a global database of all the food challenges around the world. So you can get in there and put Massachusetts, you can put Texas, you can put Asia if you want to as a whole continent. Anywhere around the world, if there's a food challenge we know of, there is it's in the database, and there's also over 100 articles that I've written a couple years ago to help people better understand how to, we call it win before you begin, train, strategize, dominate, basically figure out everything you need to know in order to win food challenges yourself. So yeah, that's if you want to check out Randy Santel stuff, as far as I know, I'm the only person named Randy Santel. So which is very fortunate. Santel is not a very common last name, unlike Davis, or my mom's a Murphy and stuff like that. There's a million of them.
We threw food challenges into the YouTube chat here, so make sure you go and check that out. I'm looking at it now. It's fantastic. It's really cool.
Cool.
I know what I'm
and
doing
if you selfishly just want to learn about food challenges, foodchallenges.com would be the one. But yeah, Randy Santel is more entertainment, along with a little bit of education along the way.
Sweet. Thank you so much, my man. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to lose the rest of my day.
Thank you guys for having me on the show, and good luck with everything.
Cheers.
Enjoy
Thanks
your
for
day,
coming on,
Likewise,
Randy.
brother.
Man,
Dude,
that's
cool,
some
man.
crazy stuff. That's pretty cool. I had a million more questions I could have asked him. We got some football to talk about that's coming up this weekend. Also, I see Tommy asking there, can we bet on it? Can we bet on those food challenges? I'm sure somewhere you can bet on it. That is a great question.
Over under.
Over there.
How many slices of pizza can Randy eat?
100. Guys, we're going to break down some of these Sunday games, but in the meantime, if you have any questions for us heading into this weekend, any fantasy football questions, throw them in the chat or hit that call-in button, come up here and ask them yourself. We are glad to answer any and everything that you guys throw our way. And Hallen there said, guys, I'm over fantasy football. Can we talk food instead? I get it, man. I get it.
I feel it.
I get it.
I feel it, dude. Yeah. We got some big games this week. I mean, we got a little bit of time here. Which ones you guys want to hit on?
I mean, we talked quite a bit already about that 49ers Chiefs game just because of the Christian McCaffrey trade, but I feel like we talked mostly on the 49ers side and haven't really brought up much about the Chiefs. And in this game, the Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites on the road right now. So they're not favored by a ton in this game. You assume the 3 points for being the home team, though even that doesn't apply all the time right now. But maybe at Levi's, it probably does apply, right? They get that little bump. But the Chiefs only favored by 2.5. Are you surprised by that line, or do you think it's a fair line?
No, I think that's pretty legit. The Chiefs have been, I mean, the 49ers have been good. The 49ers have done a good job.
They lost to the Falcons.
Yeah, but Falcons are a pretty good team, man. Like, look at the game, even the games the Falcons lost, dude. They go to they go over 50-point totals. They, I don't think they've lost a game by more than 5 or maybe one game. But I think the Falcons have been pretty good, dude, when you look at their schedule. So I don't think that's crazy. It's like the Giants too. Like, say what you will, but you can't really take a team and make them a massive favorite against the Giants right now. So I don't know. I think the 49ers are a pretty good team, especially now that they got a new running back. So maybe not as crazy of a line as people think.
Joe, you like the 49ers in this one? You think they win this one over the Chiefs? 2.5-point underdogs at home?
I don't know. I don't know because this Christian McCaffrey thing is just I feel like thrown a wrench in everything this game. So I think it's a pretty fair line. I would probably be. I'm gonna have fun with it. I want to go 49ers.
I like
that. Is nice. I'm looking for any lines on Christian McCaffrey for this game, and I'm only seeing one. And I'm seeing Christian McCaffrey at -110 to score a touchdown this week. Minus 110 touchdown score. They don't have any yardage totals up there. They don't have any anything else. But Coop, maybe that's with what you were talking about with like those red zone packages, right? Like so
on PFF, they have under 40.5 receiving yards, under 100.5 rushing / receiving yards, combination of the two, and under 55.5 rush yards.
So they're setting the line at 100 yards from scrimmage.
Sorry,
they're expecting CMC to be ready to rock and roll right away.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm expecting as well. How do you sign CMC and then not just like get him the ball? Like, even if their plan is to have it be limited, I feel like they're going to put the ball in his hand twice and be like, never mind. Like this is working. This is Christian McCaffrey. Like, and that'd be like, I just got a brand new shredder and it is beautiful and high tech and incredible. If I had something to shred and then I just went and started ripping it up instead, like that would be just like sacrilege. That would be insane. Why don't I just put it in the incredibly fancy shredder that I just got and I got as a gift? They're going to use Christian McCaffrey pretty heavily in this game. They're not putting their shredder to waste. Did the shredder analogy help? Did that help you guys understand my point a little better?
Yeah.
Makes me want to shred some stuff, dude, but I don't have a fancy shredder like you. I have a
my girlfriend was making fun of me for wanting a shredder so bad.
Dude,
and
why?
God, it's
like,
the
stop
bomb.
living my life.
It's so good. It's
Did you also get a high-end shredder, or did Maria shut that down?
Maria ended up just purchasing it because I just got into analysis paralysis, which I always do with that kind of stuff where I'm like, I have to buy the best one.
Me too, dude.
Because I know if I'm going to spend like $50 and it's going to not work and I'm going to be pissed.
I'm the same exact way, JL.
Reddit best shredder. That's how I got into flashlights. I got on Reddit. I was like, I need a flashlight. I moved from where they never shut the lights off to where there are no street lights. I was like, I need a flashlight. And then I get in the Reddit threads and they're like, well, you can't just have one. They're like, you need to have a flashlight for this and you need a headlamp. And the next thing I know, I'm like, these are my flashlights.
The same exact thing happened with me
Reddit?
in pens. I was like, I'm trying to make my handwriting better. I should get a nice pen. And so I Googled like nice pens, Reddit, and then a year later and $2,000 on pens. Like, I'm like, what did I just do? Like my pen collection is absurd.
You're so deep in pens that I have a fountain pen because I'm friends with you. That's how deep you are. It's leaking.
I remember how this all went down, and it really was like the least difficult thing to get Coop to buy into fountain pens. I mean, literally mentioned the word fountain pen. Coop's like, "Where's the subreddit? Which one do I buy?"
I was in his DMs. I slid in his DMs after the show. I was like, "So about those pens."
Yeah, we got. He started a group chat with us three, and you with fountain pen talk for the rest of the week.
We put JL in there. I'm like, "Tell me more about these pens."
like
JL, you weren't susceptible.
Guy.
I'm telling you, Simon. Once we get you a nice flashlight, dude, you'll never go back, brother.
Yeah, I'm interested, Coop. You've sent me some good recommendations. I just one of these days I'll have to get one. I got to grab one.
One of these days you'll dive in, bro, and then you'll be one of the cool guys.
Swansea Sea Snakes in here letting us know that the line moved 4 to 5 points after the CMC addition to this team. You're probably trying to. Do you think that's more they truly believe that it changes the game that much, or it's more they're trying to capitalize on that news and how the public is going to view it?
So this is a really good distinction to make with how you use these lines, because it's not always like they're betting what's the most. The odds are like what Vegas is putting out. It's not always this is the most likely to occur. It also an input to that decision is
probably a bigger
what
input.
People are doing, yeah, and it's a huge factor. So you have to take both of these sides, and you have to be able to sort of understand which is which, right, or be able to parse through that.
And Hal giving us the update. He said we set the lines by the money that goes on each side. Money came in on San Francisco to move the line, so money came in on San Francisco.
The options are take that line down or give it a big jump and then bring it back to the middle. You know, it's like you don't want to take it down. So
no, you just got to even that money out on each side. And so sports books they're looking at that. They're thinking about that. That's a great point, JL, on that one.
You can use resources like Action Network, PFF. I think both of them have you can see how much money is being put on each side of almost every bet. And it's a really good resource. Money and number of bets. So you can see where the people who are spending big money putting their money, and then where's the most quantity of bets going.
Hal also, he's brought this up a couple times when we're talking about CMC getting immediately involved, says San Francisco traded up to get Trey Lance and then did not get him immediately involved as well. I get what you're saying, but I do think it's a different situation, whereas Christian McCaffrey is already NFL ready, right? Like, we're not worried about him developing into a startable NFL running back. Trey Lance was always needing to develop once he got drafted in the NFL, right? They traded up to get him, but the plan wasn't he starts day one. The plan was this is a developmental guy, and we're fine if he sits. We haven't seen him play a snap in the NFL. They don't need to sit Christian McCaffrey and see if he's good. He's good. Right. He's Christian McCaffrey. So I think he gets the carries right away.
Wouldn't have given all that up if they didn't know he was good.
And Hal wants to know, is that free or a subscription, JL, the service you just talked about?
Well, PFF and Action Network, I think, I don't know if that particular information is behind a paywall or not. But likely is. I know both. I have paid accounts on both of them. But I don't know. I'm sure there are other resources out there as well.
Let's talk a little bit about this Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys game. Hal asked earlier, are the Lions going to score on that Dallas defense? Well, right now, the Dallas Cowboys are 7-point favorites at home in this one with a 48.5-point over-under. So those implied totals say that they think the Lions are going to score on this Dallas defense. Coop, you think they're gonna score?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Jared Goff is probably going to have his share of sacks. That's the thing with the Cowboys defense, is that Cowboys defense is great for fantasy football because they get sacks, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and they get interceptions, Trevon Diggs, but they're also susceptible to the big play. This team, Diggs is like the reincarnation of Asante Samuel, where like he either picks it off or it's like a 60-yard touchdown, right? So we know what this defense is good at. We know what they're not good at. The guy that I would say could struggle a little bit, TJ Hawkinson, not a great matchup for him. He got shut down by Kyle Duggar. The Cowboys are one of the best teams this year so far against the tight end. So maybe not a great matchup for him, but there's not a lot of options out there. You still might have to give him in your lineup. The question for me is whether DeAndre Swift is a go. It sounds like he's going to be. And if that's the case, then these Cowboys are going to have their hands full underneath dealing with Hawkinson, Swift, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Hands full underneath. You get it.
These Cowboys are going to have their hands full underneath. Yeah. Those big old cowboy balls.
Jerry Jones, grabby paws.
The question always boils down to, can Jared Goff push the ball down the field? Because teams are willing to let them dink and dunk with these short passes. All last year they did it. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 1 million targets. DeAndre Swift, guess what? They won 3 games. Teams don't care if you do that, right? Like teams are letting the Rams do that. Just throw it to Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, and guess what? They're not winning games. So they have to find a way to get that downfield, whether that's Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark if he's back, Jameson Williams will be back at some point. They need to find a way to get to the second level because, it's great for fantasy football for them to throw 1 million passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, but this team has won 4 games over the last season and a half. You got to do something different.
So Hal wants to know if TJ is in for a rough day. So if Hawkinson's supposed to have a rough day, is Amon-Ra the play? So he's coming back from injury. Are you guys comfortable plugging Amon-Ra in?
Well, it's difficult to say because, Amon-Ra, you have to get him in there. But, that's what makes analyzing tight end so hard is that the same personnel sometimes that they use to cover the tight end, they use to cover the slot. So they might decide they want to just take Amon-Ra St. Brown away, and then it's a good day for TJ Hawkinson. Or they might decide that to take TJ Hawkinson away, and it's vice versa. Like sometimes versus the Chargers, they use Derwin James just take away the tight end. And sometimes they have a more important player, and a bad tight end could do good against a team that's supposed to be good for tight end. It really is a nightmare, dude. It's like a brain freeze every time trying to figure out what's going to happen in that sense. But I think, there's room for both of them to do okay. But I could see Amon-Ra having a good game and Hawkinson having a bad game.
I'm just hoping this is a high-scoring game. I hope the Lions offense can get enough going because I think Dallas is going to be able to get it going against this abysmal Lions defense. And this has the setup to be a very fun game, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like it's it can absolutely be a fun game to watch. That's what I'm hoping for. And Hal letting us know this game has a showdown slate. Just for this game. Man, pretty cool for Sunday at a 1 p.m. game.
Maria in the chat said, I heard the last 10 minutes of the show is the craziest, so I'm here.
What's up, Maria? Right. Just in time because, guys, I want to thank everyone so much for hanging out with us this morning. We will be back on Monday with some more fantasy football talk, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. But if you miss us over the weekend, we are live on Sundays. Coop is on from 9 to 11 a.m. And then JL and I are on with our friend Joey right after that from 11 to 1, leading you guys up to kickoff, answering your questions, giving you all the news that you need. Right after this, we've got Moose and Keith coming up, so make sure you stick around here on Bettor Sports Network. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your football. We will see you guys on Monday. Adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.